What's up there, my brothers? Just saw the Nick Fuentes dealio just dropped like a moment ago, basically. Or I think it was an hour ago, maybe. But I saw it like 5-10 minutes ago.
You said you want to ask me, why are you not?
We're in there like swimwear. It's ready to go. I got everything rocking and rolling. We're super psyched about this, though. Not gonna lie. Not gonna lie. Anywho, yeah, got a big show for you guys. Nick Fuentes, along with Hunter Biden, our favorite, in this long-awaited interview between him, Hunter Biden, and forget who the other guy is. Oh, Andrew Callahan on Channel 5 News. Anyhow, without any further ado, let's get down to the getting down.
Inclusion has been our greatest strength. Diversity has been our greatest strength.
White people do feel like we are being boxed out.
A 26-year-old white kid doesn't feel like he has access because he's been canceled, and the problem is black people.
I didn't say the problem's black people.
Well, you just did, Nick. You just
said the problem is crime, and we know who's doing the crime in Chicago.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
About the Holocaust things?
Oh. About that.
We get to say whatever we want on the internet. We get to deny the Holocaust.
As far as Jews are concerned in general, I think that everybody in the country should be treated with dignity and respect and have their civil rights.
Like, what do you think about somebody like Mamdani?
Personally, I don't like him. Like, for example, on 4th of July, when he takes the opportunity to sit there with, let's be honest, not a single white person.
What about fucking Donald Trump? There's no ideological core to Donald Trump.
No, I agree with you.
Don Jr. got the largest loan ever given by the Department of Defense.
Vance owes his entire political career to Peter Thiel. Whichever firm is the one to develop ASI, that could confer dictatorial-like powers upon the CEO of that company.
Everything that we think about the way in which we exist in the world completely changes.
Increasingly with Uber, Airbnb, banking apps, you can't live your life without the tech platforms.
Everything that AI is built on is ours. That's what they're stealing from us. I want to find common ground of how much of a shithead Donald Trump is. We can get there, okay?
The kind of first question that I had whenever I caught wind that you wanted to do an interview like this is, why now? What made you want to sit down for this kind of interview?
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation to have all of us here. And, I think it's a moment in our country when there's a lot of realignment. I think that people recognize, especially in the past couple of years, I'm like a non-conventional critic, maybe, of what's happening. And so I think it'll be an interesting, productive conversation. I think it'll be different.
But I mean, specifically, because we kind of share a publicist, I heard that you wanted to kind of... Okay, we have a publicist that you hit up, and you said that you wanted to talk to someone who would give you kind of a fair shot to like clear up some things and maybe some misconceptions about you and the things you believe.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think that, like you, actually, maybe we have this in common, is kind of for things that we've done in the past or things that we've said.
Yeah, I'm a crackhead.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm racist, right?
I got pigeonholed there. Mine is true, yeah.
Yeah, well, mine's a little true. Maybe a little, no. But yeah, so I think it'd be good to clear up some of the misrepresentations and put out something accurate.
So what do you think is the most misrepresented thing about you?
Well, I think really the whole image everybody has about me. When you mentioned me, I think on a recent show, you said you want to ask me, why are you a Nazi?
Yeah.
And that's how everybody knows me. Everybody thinks of me as a white supremacist Nazi, and I don't think that's really true at all. I think that we definitely have different values. I mean, you're more from the left, I'm more from the right, but I don't think I'm a hater. I'm not a hateful person.
It is Heil Hitler Friday, Heil Hitler, all my niggas Nazis.
Hitler was very fucking cool.
Yes, I do.
Fact check.
One of them.
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
So what's the thing about, I guess, traditional Nazism that you think you disagree with the most?
Well, it's a non-Christian ideology. So, I mean, look, I believe that race is real, as the Nazis did, but I don't think it utterly defines a person. As a Christian, I think we're all created beings. I do believe there's such a thing as a universal human community. And so I think it's a cruel ideology. I've said this on my show, by the way, but I mean, that would maybe be the fundamental.
Did you always feel that way?
Always, yeah, absolutely.
So even whenever you were younger and stuff?
I did, but you know, you got to recognize times have changed. 10 years ago, we had a totally different political world. The regulation and policing of speech, you know, what you would call wokeness, I think was at an all-time high when I got started as a very young man.
What you would call wokeness?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think, I mean, would you not say there were some excesses maybe in those days?
Yeah, in those days, I wasn't doing too well, so I wasn't paying much attention. Anyway, I would love to hear, and I'm not asking you to like retract everything that you've ever said and all, you know, or anything, but I said that I would love to talk to you because number one, I told you this, is that I think you're really smart. And I think that with that comes in a real responsibility. And you have an audience. And I have a friend whose son is my daughter's age, you know, maybe 28, you know, your age. And he's really smart. And he is a big fan of yours. And so by virtue of the relationship, I got to learn what it is that why he is a fan of yours. And none of it has to do with, I would hope you agree, like really egregious things that you've said in the past about the Holocaust or about, you know.
Did the Jews ever talk about the 100 million whites that died in World War II? Or do they just bitch and moan about the so-called 6 million Jews that died?
And so it's just nice to poke holes in it and say, it's not 6 million.
6 million? I don't think so.
And I don't even know, I think I've heard you since kind of rescind a lot of that.
You concede that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could be, maybe even be more than that.
But what he agrees with is kind of the anger about the situation that particularly your generation finds yourself in. I know that to be real. And I think that there, you know, maybe my reasons for recognizing that anger as being legitimate and my targets are different than yours. I just wanted to hear from you. When you say you were canceled by the right in 2016.
Yes.
I almost felt like in preparing to meet you now, is that your reaction to that was to just dig deeper and deeper into kind of the outsider, kind of radical, say anything for the purpose of generating, you know, the attention to build an audience. Is that true? And it's not an accusation. I really mean it. I want this to be a conversation as much as possible.
I mean, there's certainly some truth to that, but I think that might be overstating it a little bit because I really got canceled by the right and the left.
Yeah.
And back in those days in 2017, you had these far left journalists at Huffington Post, Right Wing Watch, ADL, SPLC, and I really believe they were on a mission to find extremist rhetoric, the white nationalist, neo-Nazi boogeyman, all that kind of stuff. And they would look at someone like myself, 18, and if I was being serious or joking, things taken out of context, they would clip it, post it, and they wanted me to be the villain. And I think they wanted a lot of people to be the villain. And I think the left, in a way, kind of created this climate where I think they pushed a lot of people farther to the right.
No, by the way, that very well may be true, but you gave them a lot of ammunition.
That's true.
You know, I mean, I hope that some of those things that you said in the past are not things that you believed in and that are you meant just to engender like a really radical kind of response. I mean, is that true or not?
Well, you know, again, I think that back in those days, you could not say anything. In 2017, 2018, cancel culture was so in overdrive. Any joke, any edgelording, anything like that, they would, first of all, there's no sense of humor.
I'm so old, I don't even, what's
okay, well, to break it down for you, so the dawn of wokeness as it's known today, I think was in like the post-Trump era. After Trump won the election in 2016, there was a big movement to deplatform and kind of push away those who, I guess the left feel like had galvanized them into the presidency. So there was this big idea that if you push people off mainstream social media platforms, they would go away. Now we know through Trump's reelection, that's not even true. But at the time, that was the mantra. Problematic viewpoints needed to be silenced, tucked away somewhere, and they would just sort of die in isolation. So I think that was the climate where you first got started, 2017. That time period was like crucial for getting people off mainstream platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would say that you got to get into the psychology of those days. It felt like anybody that wasn't on board with the most progressive agenda had no options. There was just no alternative. It was going to be progressive, liberal, feminist, BLM, all that kind of stuff. And if you were to the right of John McCain, you're no platformed. censored, banned from all the platforms, you're fired from your job, you're ostracized socially. And I think what happened really in 2021 when Trump got banned from the platforms is it felt like 70 million people got canceled. 70 million people that voted for Trump, or 60, 70 million people, we were all felt like, oh, so if Trump is out of politics and we're all banned from the platforms, then how is there any redress for our grievances? Do we just have to shut up and get with the program and we're all going to be progressive? And I think that drove people to a far more radical place where people said, well, what really is a solution? We can't talk. We can't express ourselves. We can't participate in the process or run for office. And I was one of the people saying that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to drive people to extremism. If you don't talk, if people don't feel like they have a seat at the table and enfranchisement, I think then they start exploring options outside the system, outside of the political process, the democratic process. So I think it's self-inflicted in many ways.
So you feel like after the mass deplatforming in 2021, whenever people on the right got pushed to platforms like Parler, Gab, Rumble, etc., the lack of discourse and like the political singularity of those platforms created more extremism?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because look, you take Trump off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I predicted this in 21. I said, watch, you're going to see alternative social media rise because some venture capitalist is going to see there's a huge market of 70 million people that are going to follow Trump because Trump is no platformed. And that's exactly what happened. Rumble blew up, Elon bought Twitter, and what happened when you had total free speech on these platforms? Well, Twitter now resembles 4chan. And now, there's no gatekeepers. And
really and truly, that was a great thing. Honestly, that happening, it caused an opening in the market that saved everything. Because they had shunned so many of us, that gave other people an opportunity to start social media companies and them actually flourish and take off. Whereas we had kind of arrived at a place where they were Twitter, YouTube, and a couple of others where they were locked in. They were juggernauts, colossus. I mean, no other social media platform could do anything because they had sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And because their stuck up, evil ideology and, what they were going to do to maintain it, the hegemony that they enjoyed, it totally gave there's Rumble now because of that. And Rumble keeps YouTube honest. I mean, make no mistake. Even if you don't watch Rumble, it absolutely had it had the effect of pulling YouTube back to the center, back from the edge. And it was the same thing, Twitter, they sold it, all that stuff. I don't think that stuff would have happened if they hadn't clamped down like that and forced everybody somewhere else.
I think it did push people in a radical direction. And honestly, people are even blowing past me. Now there's like mainstream normie types that are even blowing past me in terms of how radical they are. People start saying things like, there's no political solution, there's going to be a civil war, we need a revolution. And I think that's because the message from the left was, you're crushed. You have no options, you can't win, there's no alternative. Trump is going to be indicted and charged and can't run. You can't be on Twitter, you can't have a job. And so people started to say, okay, well, we still exist. We're still here, we still have these concerns. What do we do now? And then people start to say, well, we need a revolution. And I'm one of the only people saying, no, we should still engage in the process and talk with each other. And it's not all one-sided. I think there's problems on the left and the right, but I certainly think it takes two to tango.
Okay, so we agree. I think that there are problems on the left and the right, and I don't disagree with some of the things that you just said. I guess I just came to a different conclusion that there are some things that people should be deplatformed for. Not that they can't say it where they want to say it, but I think that it's a right of anybody.
Okay, top three things. What do you think?
There's a difference between being able to say that you're proud of your white heritage and also being just a flat-out racist. I think that there's a difference between saying you're proud of your Christian heritage and the white culture from what you come from and Nazis, or that you adopt the Nazi.
He's like the first person on the left that I've ever heard say that I have ever heard engage with any sort of white pride
as a legitimate ideology. I think that there's a difference between saying that you disagree with the United States policy as it relates to Israel and saying that the Holocaust didn't exist.
I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe.
Those would be top three things in my mind. I know that you believe that some people took you out of context. And I do agree. Look, on both the right and the left, there are these gatekeepers, 100%. And look at me, the mainstream press just destroyed me for 7 years without any real kind of reflection about what they were doing. I do think that, some of those things are legitimate reasons to say, we don't want you on our, on our commercial platform. Would you agree with that? I mean, you just said, for instance, people calling for like an armed revolution, like people calling for actual violence. You're opposed to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm against violence.
Yeah.
And I do think those are one of the legitimate things that should be taken from the platform. There's a lot of the stuff on social media I don't agree with, but again, what started to happen is there was this like editorial censorship where certain ideas were banned. And it was such a broad brush and also totally opaque and ad hoc. You'd be on YouTube, like I was, for example, they banned me for life and didn't even give me a reason. Not a specific quote, not a specific infraction. And so you don't know what the rules are. You don't know what the process is. They just take you down. And especially now when everything is digital, that's not just the social platforms, it's the other ones like Uber, Airbnb, whatever. It feels like you're being denied almost something like a civil right. Because the social platforms are the modern public square. Increasingly with Uber, Airbnb, the banking apps, you can't live your life without the tech platforms. And it felt like if you just simply had the wrong opinions or you were the wrong kind of person, you were being deprived of like a basic civil right or being able to participate in society. So, and I think maybe that's an area of collaboration where we recognize maybe it is a civil right to use the digital platforms, but here are the rules. Here's what you can say. Here's what you can't say. Here's the process. Maybe there's a reconciliation mechanism. But I mean, the censorship was just out of control. I don't think anyone disagrees there's a reasonable limit, though.
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see that as a result of left-wing or right-wing ideology. I view that kind of level of deplatforming. Look, I was debanked. I was debanked before I was ever even charged with anything. I lost every bank account. It took me, 9 months once they, the Trump administration, said that they were starting an investigation into me to be able to actually get a bank account again. And I don't want to tell you the bank because tomorrow they may debank me again. But my point is that those people are incredibly identifiable. I've been talking and going around and I say things like, I don't think we are nearly as divided as they're telling us we are. Because I do believe that there are an identifiable group of people that are responsible for an enormous amount of the discord and division because they make money off of it. I think that these social media companies that are controlled by 3, 4, 5, individuals have made it clear that they only care about one thing. They only care about how much money they can produce for themselves and, the people that hold stocks in their company. Even to the degree where we know for certain that they're driving teenage girls to the highest levels of suicide by a factor, like exponential factors, directly related to the content that they're being pushed, and they won't do anything about it.
Right.
And so, to the same degree, I think they, a lot of what you call wokeness was maybe an illegitimate, but a financial decision based on a lot of these.
Corporate psyop, maybe.
Corporate psyop.
Thank you.
I mean, by the way, exactly.
I just wanted to back up real quick. So you talked about certain people going too far. About 2.5 months ago, I visited a whites-only community in Hardy, Arkansas. And I don't know why, I guess coming from like a more like left-wing place, I'm from Seattle, I kind of assumed there was like a united front on the right for some reason. So I'm out there, I'm chilling with these dudes, they're like sword fighting, having barbecues. Overall it was a good time for them. I had a hard time connecting with them because I don't agree with them, but it's all good. I was having fun for a couple days. And then like right as I was there, I guess you had hit them up on X or something and said like, hey, I don't want to associate with you guys. What happened there?
Well, that was really more of a personal disagreement with the guy that founded it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's an interesting project, and it's interesting that that got so much pushback, this whites-only community, because you know what? If you go to a lot of these different neighborhoods in major cities, there are ethnic enclaves, and it's not like there's an explicit rule that you have to be a certain ethnicity, but we all know in Chicago and New York and LA, you got certain neighborhoods where it is 80, 90% one ethnicity.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of white people that say we kind of want something similar. I don't think there's anything.
But Nick,
Well, okay, let's back up. If you want to talk
that's
about
funny.
the histories of, New York and Chicago, I feel like that was also a conscious decision that was made like
I
after
tell
the
you
Civil
where
Rights
it's
Act.
blacks only. It's in Cabrini Green, where Mayor Daley made everybody that was black live in the Cabrini Green. I mean, it's not. It wasn't by choice. It's not by choice that these ethnic enclaves are 80 or 90%, whatever that ethnicity is. It's because that's the only place in which they had an opportunity to live unbothered, or where they were told that they had to live because of the historical fact that they could not move into other neighborhoods. You could not move into parts of South Chicago without, being stoned.
Right.
Literally, right?
Yeah,
and so, like so it's not as if those ethnic enclaves are there by choice. And so that
Also, ethnic enclaves do exist for like specific variations of different Europeans. Like, there is like places that are chocolate. Like South Philly is full of Italians.
there's Little Italy and there's Little Korea.
So I think the issue,
Japan.
I always like, what confused me the most about the whites only community is like, there's just so many different kinds of white people in America. So like to establish a unified white culture with a place so diverse and full of like different regional flavors just kind of felt confusing to me. Because that can mean a different thing depending on what part of the country or what European enclave you originated from. Like we're Irish people from the Philly area. Can you compare that to like, surfers in San Diego or even like, Italian Americans in Staten Island? I don't know, everything just feels so different. So when I got there, I was trying to identify what they meant by white culture. It wasn't really based on shared like cultural practices, but more the exclusion of people who weren't white. So they weren't like stoked on being European necessarily. They were more just like, oh, we're here because those people aren't here. So it just kind of felt more negative than constructive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not really involved with that project in particular, but I think that, look, I mean, you talk about the anger that's out there and the frustration, and I think part of the frustration, let's be honest, is that white people do feel like we are being boxed out in major cities in the country, and it feels like, look, there's a little Haiti, and there's various ethnic enclaves where you get that local culture, and they do their, cultural festivals and that sort of thing, and white people feel like they're being pushed out, and they want a space where things are familiar.
Do you feel the same way about the Italian festival that happens in every city?
Well, here's a good example.
Or St. Patrick's Day?
Well, there's no Irish neighborhood in Chicago. Little
sure
Italy.
There is.
I mean, there's some remnant in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And,
It's important to note that, like, and I'm not trying to get into like a shouting match here, but like, as a family coming from a family who did leave Philadelphia in the 60s because of black migration from the South after the Civil Rights Act was passed, there was a sort of like mass flight of white people into the suburbs, and that kind of led to a homogenization of different cultures because they rushed so fast to build these like identical strip mall suburbs that it was very hard to maintain cultural bonds that made different European and white neighborhoods unique around like the 1950s and before. So I feel like the mass suburbanization is also a big factor that led to those like cultural bonds breaking.
Yeah, but why did that happen? I mean, a lot of the suburbanization is because of the race riots in the 1960s. People moved out because of the violence. My grandfather was in the National Guard in Chicago when, after MLK got assassinated, the whole West Side burned to the ground. And people didn't want to be around that anymore.
Why were the riots?
MLK Jr. was assassinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so does that justify burning down?
Yeah, people don't have to live around that shit. Normal people don't go rioting just because somebody dies.
Down the city?
No, I didn't say it justifies it, but it sure justifies an enormous amount of the anger, the same kind of anger that you feel about being left out, the same kind of anger that you're expressing right now about the idea that you're culturally irrelevant, that you don't have a place in society. Imagine if you were a 26-year-old black man in 1968 and saw your hero be assassinated.
I saw Trump get shot in the ear, and
did he?
And I saw Charlie Kirk get shot, and I didn't see any cities get burned down. It's funny how that works.
I think it's a very, very, very different thing. I think
How's that different? Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And liberals celebrated all over social media by Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. Who is what?
Who is some liberal guy.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
But
he's got a transgender boyfriend.
Does that make him liberal? Because he's transgender? Because he's gay?
So. Well, because he's got a transgender boyfriend, yeah, I think so.
It makes him liberal.
I think he was liberal, yeah.
Okay. Well, he didn't come from a liberal family. He didn't come from a liberal enclave. He didn't come from a liberal background. He's not a minority. He was a Mormon, correct? And grew up in a Mormon household. And he went to a largely Mormon college. And he ended up committing an act of violence, according to the FBI and the authorities in Utah that charged him. How does that in any way compare to what we're talking about? I'm not justifying the violence that occurred after the death of Martin Luther King.
There sounds like
you're
it.
saying that person, this Tyler, whoever his name is was as disenfranchised as the African American community in 1968 in inner cities?
Well, the question is who we want to live around.
I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry.
And in the 1960s, the West Side burns down. We don't want to live around that. We don't want to live around a city that's burning down.
That's not when the white flight happened.
It is. It was a big response to it. Absolutely.
100% not.
Absolutely.
You make these historical connections that don't exist. Part of it was potentially, but before that, what Mayor Daley did is made Chicago the most segregated city in the entire United States, other than Boston. When you would come from the South to Chicago, African Americans from the South, blacks in the South coming to Chicago would say that Chicago was twice the level of segregation and racism that occurred in the South. And so it wasn't as if you're coming into a situation in which you're feeling in any way enfranchised by the community and the situation that you're in. And as many people left simply because of the idea that someone was black moving into their neighborhood as the violence that occurred after the assassination of Martin Luther King. So the numbers actually, pre-1968, when King was shot, you had more people leave the city because of the desegregation, because of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, than you did after the riots.
I think that's just not true. I think that the race riots were a huge driver of white flight to the suburbs. I think it's just dishonest to say that's not the case.
Okay, so what's your point about all of this?
Well, we're talking about where people want to live.
Yeah, I know. So like what in 2026?
Well, how about in 2020 when Minneapolis burned to the ground? Or how about in the summer of 2020 in Chicago?
Minneapolis didn't burn to the ground.
It didn't?
No. I mean, there were
BLM
parts
didn't
of
destroy dozens of structures?
If you guys need a physical witness to what happened in Minneapolis, there were many structures that burned to the ground. Not the city, but there was, I would say, between 40 to 50 buildings off of Lake Street in the south side that did burn to the ground. But most of the city was intact, but it was quite an intense situation.
People don't want to live around that. People don't want to live around that. You know, in Chicago, it rolled on into the summer, and it wasn't, let's say, the anger of the oppressed and the disenfranchised.
So
they were looting. They were looting and carjacking. The criminals.
Are you saying that the problem with the 26-year-old white kid living in suburbia outside of Chicago and his feeling of being disenfranchised is because there was looting and rioting in Minneapolis by black people? And it's black people that are doing it.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with Austin Metcalf was that he got stabbed in the neck at a track meet. And the problem with our city in Chicago is that the Magnificent Mile is gone. Water Tower Place is gone because of all the crime.
Nick, and the time from an entire generation of African Americans is that they've been getting killed by cops for decades.
That's
what are you talking about, Nick?
Because they commit crime. And listen, it's not...
Nick.
What?
That's not true. It's not true. Are you saying that police brutality as it relates and racism in the police force, in the way in which police treat African Americans? Nick, you could grow up here like I did between Wilmington and Philadelphia. And if you were a black dentist and you lived in Wilmington and you commuted to Philadelphia, the chances of you being pulled over by a state trooper, either Delaware or in Pennsylvania, are about 50 times that would be if it was a white guy. 50 times. And so what you're trying to tell me is that the problem in America right now is that a 26-year-old white kid who lives in suburban Chicago doesn't feel like he has access because he's been canceled or he's been...
Dude, they commit way more crime. It stands to reason that cops would pull them over more. I mean, come on, man.
And woke, and the problem is black people.
I didn't say the problem's black people.
Well, you just did, Nick. You just said
the problem is crime, and we know who's doing the crime in Chicago. The carjackings, shootings, teen takeovers. We know why there's no business on the Mag Mile anymore, and it's because they steal cars, they drive them through windows. And listen, black people are some of the biggest victims of the black crime. But we're not allowed to talk about it because of the racial
What do you mean
dimension.
you're not allowed to talk about it? We're talking about it right here.
Hey,
you
guys,
have a platform in which millions of people listen to you, Nick.
I think
Millions.
Well, after Elon had to buy Twitter and open it up. It wasn't like that before. I was banned from everything for many years. So no, you weren't allowed it. You're right. We can talk about it now, but that's only because the good guys
Nick.
won.
Hey, what's up, guys? There's something I forgot to tell you about. We also just launched our own streaming platform called C5.now. We have 5 films on there right now. Film number 1, The Art of Protest, made by the homies over at Indecline, who we interviewed a few months back. Film 2, Rat Film by Theo Anthony, set in Baltimore, investigates the lives and times of the rodent population through the eyes of the people who love the rats of Baltimore, study the rats of Baltimore, or are paid to execute and trap the rodents of Charm City. Documentary number 3, Star Cash by Haley Garrigus, an amazing Wall Street documentary that follows the lives of market predictors, that's right, stock analysts who stare at the planets to figure out what's going to happen with the money. Documentary number 4, it's called Physician Heal Thyself, from our TV app.
Trump hasn't changed at all. Donald Trump has been Donald Trump since he came out of the womb of a woman that was an immigrant to this country. And so what I want to know, though, is that I don't know how we get past this idea that the biggest problem that you have with your personal situation and how you extrapolate that to the situation of other white kids that are your age, that feel disenfranchised, that feel left out, that feel they don't have a shot at the American dream, is because of black and brown people, because of Mexicans, because of Venezuelans, because of Haitians, it's always other, Nick, with you, it seems to me. And I've listened to a lot of the stuff. It's always them. We need to build a wall. Where's the wall, Nick? He never built the wall. Why'd you vote for him in 2020? Why'd you vote for him in 2024?
I didn't vote for him in 2024.
Okay. My point being is that whenever you identify your problem as being something that is other, that you can point to, that's a minority, that is a group of people, that's the Jews, before, remember, all of us, it was the Irish Catholics who were committing the crime, who weren't allowed into bars, who weren't allowed into, because you know why? Because they were dirty, poor, non-Europeans. They were Irish. Every time it's wrong. Every time history has proven that to be wrong in the United States of America. Every time. Inclusion has been our greatest strength. Diversity has been our greatest strength. And I hear you talk about this idea of white culture. What fucking white culture are you talking about, man? What
Shakespeare, Dante, Mozart. We're in Philadelphia, the founding fathers.
Yeah.
That's your white culture.
How about the Count of Monte Cristo? Would you consider that part of our white culture?
Oh,
sure.
It was.
Okay. Well, it was written by a black man.
It was written by Alexander Dumas. Like, bro, fuck you. First of all, he's half black. And his father was a general in the French military. He wrote The Three Musketeers and The Man in the Iron Mask as well. But I've read The Count of Monte Cristo. It's an amazing piece of art. It's my favorite book.
In the 1700s.
In a milieu of European civilization.
So what?
Because you're picking out one example. It really is.
I'm not just picking out one example.
It really is.
Nick.
Listen.
Nick, I'm not. I really am not.
Hey, guys, I think we're reaching what's called a rock and a hard place. Let's talk about Israel.
Well, let me respond to this, because you're telling me I'm always blaming the other.
No, Nick, for real. Here's the thing, is that the way that you talk and throw out these historical facts, which, by the way, aren't fucking facts. Okay?
Which ones aren't facts?
As it relates to the Civil Rights Movement in 1968, and the reason why we're out in the problem that we're in is because the Civil Rights Act passed in 1964. Dr. Martin Luther King was killed and shot by a white racist, white supremacist in 1968 on a balcony of a motel. That's the root of our trouble, because
Man, what the hell does that have to do with the price of rice in China? I didn't kill no black dude. Such bullshit.
Entire people that have been disenfranchised.
You know what this is? The world's smallest violin playing My Heart Goes Out to You. I just could not I couldn't care any less.
And enslaved for over 400 years.
We're sick of hearing about that, though. Yep. It's 2026.
You may be sick of hearing about it, but you know what? They aren't. And I'll tell you what, Nick, here's the other thing.
Get over it. It's America.
Okay, but Nick, you can say stuff like that, okay,
if that's the deal, then why are Nigerians, why do they on average make more money than white people? If it's so racist here, then why does everybody but our lazy ass black population, why does all the other blacks, they do awesome? They kick ass.
without having to say it like that. And look,
That's not how it started, though.
This is a legitimate argument, but it's, Nick.
Guys, Nick, Hunter, what do you guys make of the concept of community collapse? Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's got nothing to do with race, got nothing to do with money, but this is kind of a crazy stat. So in 2019, before COVID, 76% of Americans said they were a part of an in-person community that gave them some kind of value. After COVID, and this year, it was 19%. So I think that politics and race aside, one of the biggest issues is the collapse of social bonds, third spaces, communities, in-person engagement, which comes with loneliness, more time online, and more division. I understand that. I feel like you guys aren't going to agree. I want to talk about what you guys think can be done on an individual and community level to stop people from hating each other and to create more belonging and engagement.
Well, number one, I think this. Okay, for real.
Podcasting.
No, not podcasting, this discussion. For me to be able to sit down with someone who I so vehemently disagree with and find some kind of common ground.
But I mean, guy at home who's watching this on his phone just thinking, I wish I could go outside, but I don't know anyone.
Okay, well, here's what I'm talking about. It's all about connection. It is all about actually connecting with people. And I'm not talking about digitally connecting with people anonymously online. I'm talking about actually going out and connecting with people. And I don't have an answer to that. I don't, any of us. We are look, man, I just think that you are targeting the wrong problem, Nick. I think that our biggest problem right now doesn't have to do with this cultural divide or racial divide or religious divide or the idea that America is becoming less white or culturally relevant anymore. I think our biggest problem is literally an oligarchy that is inflaming every single division that we have. And by the way, and they're out for you, man. Just as much as anybody else.
Well, and I agree.
So those platforms that we talk about that you're not allowed to be on because Elon's out on the platform. Elon doesn't give a shit about anything other than one thing.
Wait, Hunter, I just want to say real quick.
Money, and his money.
I don't necessarily even agree with that.
Okay, well, you may not agree with that because you don't want to piss off Elon Musk.
Elon doesn't even like me, but I just disagree.
You're talking about the oligarchy, right? Like these billionaires, right? Like the goal of corporate capture of these industries is community collapse. They are trying to engineer things to make it antisocial. They want to eliminate every single small business. They want to make everyone a single person shopper, no carpooling, like to be a lonely consumer who only buys things for themselves online and doesn't talk to anyone in real life. That's what they want in real life. Like all this data center shit, like everything they're doing is in a way trying to break up in-person engagement. And I feel like for you guys,
no shit.
Might be hard to answer because both of you guys are what they call like controversial public figures. Like there's places that you, like in 2018, if you were to go to a dive bar in, let's say, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, you would have been in danger. You know what I mean? At that time. For you were in danger physically in a left-wing city. It's just the truth. So I feel like you guys have been deprived of the ability to have normal lives. You especially, you know, but I mean you in general, but I feel like, you know, your controversies came a little bit later in life. For you, I feel like you haven't even been able to grow up as a normal person. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, that's true. Well, and in terms of, building community back and everything like that, the data says that really the loss of society is the fact that we don't encounter people anymore. For example, on your way to work or, in ways that are unexpected. People wake up in their house, which is separate from everybody else. They get in their car by themselves, drive to work by themselves, and then they meet with their colleagues and everything, but then they go right home, have a beer, watch Netflix until they go to bed. Next day starts all over again. And so, I think it has a lot to do with maybe how we structure the cities. I think honestly a big part of it, there's like this abundance mindset with liberals. Liberals want to have prosperity and everything like that. How can you have that when the cities are not safe? I think that one of the ways, for example, if you want to have those encounters that are unplanned or spontaneous, they're going to happen maybe on the subway, on the bus, on your way to work. People don't want to ride the subway anymore. People don't want to ride the bus. They don't
I just feel
like
that
it's
if
safe.
you look at the data, like right now, 2026, I think 2025 had the lowest homicide rate of any year in America for like the past 40 years. I feel like if you compare data from the 90s, like the cities, I get what you're saying, but the cities I have noticed are a lot safer. They're also, becoming more expensive as well. It could have something to do with it.
You're absolutely right. It's what you're saying, Nick, is impossible to refute, right? Because everybody has an experience with violence or witnessing a crime, or whether it's just in their local newspaper or not, is that I don't think that is in any way limited to only urban environments. I take the top 10 poorest red states in the country, and their crime rates are 10 times what many urban centers are.
So you'd be comparing like West Virginia, coal country, disenfranchised
to a liberal city. That's what they're talking about. A liberal city in a red state. As if there's anything the red state can... The cities are the population centers. And they're liberal. The rural backwoods people, there's like 10 of them to every million people in the city. It's ridiculous.
In urban neighborhood.
Yeah, in terms
basically.
of per capita crime, in terms of per capita murder, in terms of per capita child sexual abuse, yeah. I think the things that people really care about, you know, things like that, is their own personal safety.
Yeah.
It is not limited to African American urban or Latino American urban environments. It's not. It exists. Carjackings do happen, but you know where they happen? They happen in Biloxi, Mississippi, just as much as they happen in Chicago.
I'm skeptical of that.
I mean, I just think the idea of like safety at risk, crime has been. I feel like media has overblown the level of danger.
Everybody's going to fact check both of us on this, and but I agree with you. But my point about it, all of it is, though, is that you can always point to a reason, Nick. There's never been a time in which there hasn't been crime in major urban areas where you pack a lot of people in. You're right, though, is that the difference between us feeling like each other were our neighbors and that we can find some common ground is the fact, you know, you can live in existence now and by the time you're 56 years old and never really have to leave your house to make a living, to, you know, you don't go to the community center anymore. And I don't know how to fix that. And I certainly don't know how to fix it in the age of AI.
Right? Because community is like an essential human need, if not the most important thing. Mm-hmm. So when you are deprived of that, you're more likely to look for a radical solution and be like, everything's broken, we need to try something really out there. So you might embrace something more reactionary on left or right to be like, fuck this, you know, we need something new. And I'm not trying to draw this like male loneliness, like incel pipeline that the media tries to do all the time. But do you see a connection there between like people being lonely and having less friends and subcultural choice taking over community value systems or community engagement and people just like driving to the extreme?
100%. I think social dislocation is probably the number one problem of our times, because you look at the young people and you're right, it is one of those essential human needs, is to connect and have that sense of familiarity, to be seen, to see and to be seen. And that's something young people don't have. And I think, by the way, you look at the way young people socialize and even the mentality, I think a lot of young people have this absolute drive to go to college. Why? It's an extension of high school. And what do high school and college have in common? It's a community. You're in the quad. You can see and be seen. There's sort of like a status, reputation. You're constantly involved with other people. And I think everybody, young people, look at when they graduate from college like falling off a cliff and now life is over. Because now you just have your job, the gym, and going back home, and that's it. And this is why a lot of young people then want to move to the big cities. Got to go to New York, got to go to Chicago or LA where it's happening. And they want to get a condo or an apartment downtown because they want to go to the bar scene and extend college a little bit longer. And I think that's just not really a sustainable way to have a society. There has to be a way for people to still have that sense of community outside of, let's say, college and high school, even into their adulthood, and then into their old age. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems going on. And I agree. I think it drives, even to your point about the whites-only community in Arkansas, I think it is driving these, let's call it ghettoization or insulation of people going into these artificial values-based communities.
Yeah.
Because where are you going to find people? Go online. Go online, start spouting about politics, or, you know, even not just for incels and right-wingers, but even on the left. Someone like Tyler Robinson, he's on Discord. He's on Discord with all of the Overwatch players and all the LGBTQ or whatever. And I think that, you know, there's a tendency there where everybody kind of amplifies some of the resentment or feelings there. So I agree, that's a huge driver.
So for you, like back in high school when you were like first kind of starting to use the internet and all that, did you build most of your community in person outside Chicago, or was it mostly online?
When I was in high school or college?
High school.
The high school, I had real friends in Model UN. That was my favorite thing. So that was.
But you were still creating like some kind of content at that time.
Not in high school, no.
Okay, so you went to BU.
Yes.
Were most of your friends like classmates there? Like when did you start to kind of build your online persona and community around your content?
It wasn't until I left college. So to that point, I had friends in college. And then when I left college and started my show independently, then it was all people online. And everybody I knew was people from my community for the most part.
But your cancellation from mainstream platforms was effectively the same thing as like a community collapse for your personal life, right?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say it was just the cancellation, but even more just returning home from college.
What do you think would have happened to you, like career-wise and personal life-wise, if you never would have been mainstreamed? I mean, I guess removed from major social media platforms.
Oh, it'd be a lot easier to make friends. Let's say, because, you know, being banned on Instagram, you might as well be dead. In Generation Z, that's how everybody sees each other, meets each other, talks to each other. So I think I probably have a wider, livelier circle.
Do you feel like you had less friends after that?
No, I'd say it's about the same.
No, but I mean, you said that like you feel like it would have been easier to make friends.
It would have been easy to make more friends. Yeah, sure.
So aside from your career, how was your like personal and social life affected in those following years?
Well, it's brutal, you know. I mean, because everybody that I knew from high school is on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'm just not on there. It's almost like you're removed from the earth. For Generation Z, I understand for older people, for different generation, people still meet up or stay in touch in other ways. But if you're not online as a young person, you might as well be dead.
Do you think you would have said like some of the more extreme things that you did say if you I guess were allowed to remain on the mainstream internet?
Absolutely, yeah.
Looking back, and I'm not trying to get you to like take something back necessarily, what's like one thing that you said when you were younger where you're like, fuck, wish I could take that back?
You know, I don't know if I regret what I've said. It's just how you say it.
Yeah, like can you think of an example of like when you listen back to something and you're like, geez, I wish I could.
Yeah. So I did this rally in 2023 called Fuentes Rally 2. And the one comment I said, we're talking about a spiritual battle between Christians and everybody else. And I said, we're in a holy war. I said, and we're going to make them die in a holy war. And the second I said that, I was like, didn't mean to say that. It's an extemporaneous speech. So you don't rehearse it. You just say things. And I was like, didn't mean that. Shouldn't have said that. So it's always the how. It's always in the delivery that I...
Nick, I can think of about 4 things that I really wish you would take back right now. But
Like what?
The cookies in the oven?
Well, that's a joke.
But it's not, Nick. My wife is Jewish. My son is Jewish. No, Nick. I promise you. Don't get mad.
I'm not mad.
Okay,
It's
I know. But you got to understand how incredibly.
No, you just need to get a thicker
whether
skin.
it's a joke or not. It's a lived experience passed down from generation
Nobody
to generation.
cares.
Whether or not, and by the way,
fucking
not
cares,
just from the
man.
Holocaust,
Fuck
not just from 1939 on. 2,000 years of
refuse to
history. Okay, forget about Israel.
I can't stand this shit. It's like, bro, who the fuck are you, man? I have never killed anybody or hurt anybody. Shut your mouth, bro. Who are you to lecture me, asshole?
Politics and Netanyahu, because I think we agree about Bibi Netanyahu. I'm positive we do. And I've listened to you talk about it. But you got to understand, look at me, man.
I see.
It hurts. It hurts.
Does it?
Nick, I promise you it does. When you compare my wife's family to cookies going to an oven, it hurts, and you've got to understand that. And by the way, I'm looking at you, and I believe that you do know that.
See, that's where you lose me. That's where you lose me.
Okay, Nick. Okay, I'm telling you.
Well, listen, are we here to talk, or are you here to lecture me and preach to me?
Okay, no, you're right. Let me listen.
Okay.
Listen, you're right.
So
You're right.
this is
Okay.
the thing, because, and I think this is a disconnect. I think that the left, and even people on the right, they're losing the young people. Why do people love me? Not in spite of, but because of the outrageous things that I say. Not in spite of, but because I say offensive things. Because I, let's say, drop the N-word on a video or something. Yeah. It's because people are sick of the preachiness, the
Nick.
lecturing.
Okay, I'll listen
they
to what
really
you
are.
say. But Nick, I disagree. I think that you're appealing to the lowest common denominator of thought. If you're hating on the people that they think are the reason for their suffering, then you must be on their side. I don't think that you believe that about the Holocaust. I think you think the Holocaust did happen. But forget about whether or not you think that it is used politically in a way that is obtuse and wrong. But I think that you do believe that.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to. Like, what's your cultural heritage?
I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish.
Mexican. When did they come in Italian? When did the Mexicans come? When did the Irish come?
Mexicans came turn of the last century.
Yeah.
Italians came in the 1860s.
Yeah.
Irish came in the early 1900s.
Okay, so maybe you wouldn't care about something that is like grossly offensive just on the face of it and think that, oh, why can't people just believe that that's funny? But you got to understand, it's from the perspective of somebody that has that trauma, and I think that there is such a...
This is bullshit. This is total bullshit. There are no sacred cows in this life. Like, fuck you and your sacred cow, bro. Fuck you. People, they should not allow themselves to be offended by words and jokes. Fuck him and fuck those people. It's not Nick that's the problem. It's those people that's the problem that can't fucking... It's like they want to control other people. That's what it is. They want control. Especially the people that, my family, my mom, me mom, this and that. Fuck those people. Fuck them and their sacred cow. Nothing is that sacred. Like, and there are people, these liberals, You know, these are the type of people that would attack Muhammad. Remember, like Christopher Hitchens? They would attack those people to prove there was no sacred cows. The same side that once, that once did that, they're not doing. Now they're the ones attacking people. It's outrageous.
Thing is generational trauma, and those stories are passed down generation to generation. When you say something like that, they completely shut off. They can't hear another thing that you're saying about this cultural disconnect, about losing communities, about the feeling of being left out or left behind in a world in which there no longer is this sense of community. All the other things that you say, everybody else is left, and what you do pick up. You pick up the ones that hear the dog whistle. You pick up the ones that say, yeah, that's the way that I feel, because it's radical. It's like he's willing to say the thing that nobody else will say in this environment. And then you get, an enormous amount of niche, but love from that. And I just don't believe that you believe that. I don't believe that you think that it was appropriate for you to say something like that. I don't think you believe that it's appropriate to say women shouldn't vote.
Let's give Nick a second
Why would he say it if he didn't believe it was appropriate? What an idiot.
to respond to the first thing.
I know I talk constantly. That's how I do this.
It's all good. It's all good.
I apologize.
I get it, and I understand that perspective, and it is offensive and it is provocative, and that's sort of what makes it funny. I mean, what we would say in our generation is edgelording. We're being edgy. We're being provocative, and I think that it is that kind of overbearing sense for our entire.
Nick, I'm the king of edgelord.
Well.
No, you're not, because your attitude and your fucking saccharine, syrupy, they hurt their feeling. That's the kind of shit that makes people want to edgelord more. Fuck those people and fuck their feelings. Nobody cares about when we bitch and moan.
In a certain way.
Let's let Nick explain
I know.
the psychology.
It's that overbearingness that my generation's had our entire lives. That's not appropriate. That's not funny. Think of the trauma. That's racist. That's white supremacist. That makes it funny. That makes it different, interesting. And let me grant, by the way, I think that now, and this is maybe a concession towards you, now that my kind of humor has become mainstream and popular, I don't even think that that's funny anymore. People do the edgelording thing. It's become so commonplace and so tired. I don't think it's that funny or impressive. That's a big part of why I kind of moved past it, because 10 years ago, it was treated like sacrilegious. And there's something funny about the fact that you could say a word or make a joke and make people lose their minds and freak out. And it was like an international incident if you said the wrong thing. And I think that's what made it tempting, especially for a young person. You want to rebel. You want to be defiant. You want to be a little revolutionary or something. Now, as time has gone on, I think that's become a fad. Everybody does it. It's lost its power. And I think that, by the way, part of why we're getting less of it is because instead of getting the preachy lecture from the left saying that's not appropriate, people just roll their eyes. Now, when an edgy white person says the N-word, people roll their eyes and go, really? That joke again? People hear someone wears a Nazi costume, makes a Holocaust joke. People go, really? That joke again? It's not impressive. It's not funny anymore. We've seen it before. And ironically, that is what makes you get less of it when you disempower those things by not giving them this over-the-top reaction, pretending like it's some great travesty.
So you think the new counterculture is going to be woke again?
No, I think it's a synthesis.
A synthesis of post-edgelordism and wokeism?
Yes, because I think that wokeism had its
me.
excesses.
Yeah.
Edgelording also has its excesses. And I think now we're finding a middle ground between saying the edgiest thing we can think of with no regard for anyone and saying everything is racist. If you say something, you should lose your job. We're finding a middle ground where, maybe it's tastefully offensive in small doses, less is more.
So it sounds like you believe in the survival of the American experiment.
Yeah, I really do. And listen, I don't think everything about wokeism was bad necessarily.
What's the best thing about wokeism?
I think that genuinely it has made people more respectful and empathetic. Because let's be honest, 20 years ago, let's say when I was growing up, I think there was a lot of cruelty. And I think there were some hateful attitudes. And I think as time has gone on, this younger generation, they may not be even left wing. They may not be what you'd consider woke, but I think they are respectful of people that have different ideas or, you know, a different way of life or from a different culture. You know, we make jokes all the time about the fact that I'm like a far right guy and I'm Mexican. People say I'm a white supremacist, I'm Mexican. And people make a joke that a lot of far right people are Hispanic. And I think that's a consequence that there's very little genuine racial hatred in anybody's DNA anymore, or any kind of hatred. Right. And I think that's positive, but that went too far. I think some of the other stuff went too far as well.
You know, one of these strange things about sitting in a room with these two is that they agree on almost nothing, but they've both lived the same nightmare. Hunter had a laptop turn into a decade of strangers picking through his texts, his private photos, his voice memo, and even his bank record, whereas Nick has been doxxed, swatted, had his DMs leaked probably more times than he can count, and more shenanigans. Different politics, but kind of they've processed over.
What a dickhead.
You may find it funny because you pass as a white Anglo-Christian.
Do you think I pass?
What?
Do you think I pass as a white Anglo-Christian?
Well, I not only think you pass, I think you identify as it. Yeah.
No, kidding.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. No, but really, for real. And my point is that I heard you do an interview. Okay, and I literally on the write up here is like you were talking about how you were raised on like Mark Levin in high school,
right?
And the thing that you liked the most about Mark Levin is how cruel he was to
his audience,
the callers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that. Like the joke about the cookies. It may be a joke and it may be edgelording and you may not really mean it, but you got to realize the cruelty to it. And without going like, oh, like, you know, wham, like, you know, people got to stop crying about the past. And that's the thing, is that I think that you have such an opportunity.
Dude, words are not cruelty. Fuck you. That shit, that is not cruelty. Okay, torturing somebody. Okay, that's cruelty. You know, screaming in somebody's ear for like an hour. That's cruel. Bro, hearing somebody say something that's distasteful or hurtful, man, fuck off with that stuff. Fuck off with that. I don't want to, that's such bullshit, man. It's some fucking modern age snowflake shit.
To talk to a generation of disaffected, angry, legitimately angry people in a way in which is positive without having to do that shit. And by the way, and I'm not holding you responsible for like, you know, the end of you know, my conception of Western civilization, which is different than yours, but I just don't get it. I don't get why you find the cruelty. And I think that, by the way, I think that that's why you like Trump. I mean, I'm making, you know, like a very unfair leap because his first instinct is cruelty. His first instinct is to find the fault in the other. About everything, by the way. It's not his fault that that we're in a war with Iran that he's ended 38 times and, you know, and started 39. It's not his fault that inflation's high. It's not his fault that the wall didn't get built. It's not his fault that ICE is killing people on the streets in these places. It's the cruelty of it. Maybe it's a generational thing. I got friends who are Jewish that are going to be really, really fucking pissed off that I'm sitting next to you. And what do I tell them? What do I tell them why it's okay for me to sit and have this conversation with you?
I guess I just have such a different opinion of that. You know, why should we have to explain ourselves to talk to anybody? And why is it that saying the wrong words or making a particular joke makes it so the Jewish person wouldn't want to watch my show? I have a lot of Jewish fans. I mean, some of my best friends are Jewish. I've had Jewish employees, and they recognize that, you know, just because I'm not necessarily nice all the time doesn't mean I'm hateful, doesn't mean, I don't even think they see it as cruel. I think they see it as it's a little rough around the edges. And maybe that's the difference, is I guess it's just attributing this weight to something that can considered a joke and maybe doesn't have a cruel intention behind it. Like, you know, Mark Levin, you got to remember at the end of the day, it's an entertainment show. It's entertainment. People call in, he gets frustrated with them. It's part of what I do on my show. And it's not always nice, but it's funny. And I don't think it's mean-spirited necessarily, and I don't think it's that big of a deal. So, I mean, the thought that I would, like, for example, with you, people would say, why do you talk to Hunter Biden? His father and his DOJ froze your money and put you on a no-fly list. I'd say, so what? I mean, it's just talking. I don't think talking's a big deal. you know?
Froze my money and put me on a no-fly list too.
There you go. See, so we got that in common.
So a different question that I have that kind of weaves everything together. How do you think
funny,
like
though,
October 7th and
like that they have that in common? That is funny. For totally different, couldn't be further apart.
the subsequent like
reasons.
Pro-Palestine movement and the online worlds it created led to a growing audience on the right?
October 7th in particular?
Yeah.
Well, I think it highlighted and brought to the forefront how captured the right wing is by Israel, which is very unique. I think the Democrats and the Republicans are pro-Israel, but the Republican Party has this inextricable institutional connection with the Israel lobby, with this Likud government in particular. And I think people just started to see the hypocrisies. The hypocrisy was brought to the forefront, which is America first, but not with Israel. No new wars except for with Iran.
Under Trump, we will have no more wars. No more wars. No more wars. They said he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone.
What a
You know, we're going to be racist and all these things, but don't you dare be anti-Semitic. Don't even, think about it.
I see good things about Hitler also. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
So I think that on the right wing, it made it unignorable that there's this ideological institutional capture.
I just feel like a lot of straightforward, like just anti-Semite influencers were taking advantage of the post-October 7th discourse to push other ideas, broader ideas about Jewish people as a whole.
Come out and say it. Like, I think that Jews are causing a disproportionate amount of problems in the United States.
Well, I mean, I think it's hard to ignore some of those other conversations. I know that it's now become maybe in vogue to say that the Israel issue is very narrow. It's just Netanyahu. It's just the Likudniks. It's just the Israel lobby. But, what would you say about someone like Larry Ellison? I mean, somebody like that, I don't think fits neatly into this, let's say, problem of Netanyahu.
As far as installing Barry Weiss and whatnot.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because this is somebody who's not Israeli. He's not even a religious Jew, but he's ethnically Jewish and has this deep affinity for the state of Israel.
I feel a deep emotional connection to the state of Israel and the Israeli people.
And is using and mobilizing his power and resources and connections to benefit Israel in the private sector. And so if you were to say, what's a law that we could pass to prevent that kind of influence, what would it look like? He's an American citizen. He can't buy a media company and hire Barry Weiss to run CBS News. And yet we recognize that's a big problem.
I just feel the conflation of like anti-Zionism and like Holocaust denial played into the hands of the Israeli propaganda apparatus. Because then they can say, hey, look, these people that oppose what we're doing in Palestine also don't think the Holocaust happened. It's a big jump in the public perception.
It was almost to me as if that was your intent. To lose any legitimacy about any argument as it relates to Israel and the Likud government is to say those edgelording things or whatever.
Jews are money changers, bullshit artists, psychopaths, charlatans, grifters, manipulators.
I don't know anybody that can hear you after you say that, including myself. It delegitimizes everything because I don't think that you... a little bit of more compassion.
Let's try to stay a little. I don't want to do any character attacks on Nick.
I'm not attacking his character. I'm not attacking. I promise you. I'm
no, but
not.
as far as compassion, I more just mean straightforward. Do you feel like the rise in anti-Semitic online influencers post October 7th has given Israel more ammunition to work with in terms of casting everyone who opposes what they're doing as just like a rabid Jew hater?
In some cases, yeah, in some cases, sure. But I also think that's overstated because I think that, look, let's just be honest. I do believe the political left wants to make the Israel issue very narrow. And they want to say that the issue is this genocide in Palestine. And on some level, they think that the Israeli government is racist.
You f***ing baying pig. You f***ing bloodthirsty, violent pig dog.
And that's the problem. And I think that ignores that there is a broader conversation, and it does have to do with the Holocaust, and it does have to do with Jews as such, and Jewish nationalism and Jewish identity. So to try to shoehorn it in and say, well, if anybody goes further than this very narrow critique of Israel, well, they're actually helping Israel, I don't agree with that. I think we have to unpack the whole conversation.
Well, do you care a lot about Palestinians?
Not more than I care about anybody else.
So I guess that would be why that they would be like, okay, you're just taking advantage of this discourse.
I don't think it's taking advantage. I think that we can sympathize with the Palestinians while also realizing that, look, I'm an American. And so it's a tragedy what's happening in Palestine, but there's tragedies happening all over the world. My problem is that Israel has this influence over our government.
I'm a newcomer to politics, but not to backing the Jewish state.
And we're paying for the genocide, and we're furnishing them with the weapons to commit the genocide. And by the way, America is going to be held liable for this genocide, morally, but also politically and diplomatically and otherwise. But I think that people on the left, they may be guilty of maybe caring more about Palestine than they do about America.
Nick, but the left didn't cancel you. The right canceled you first. The right canceled you first, and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, and those were the people that canceled. They may have utilized the tools of the left, or what you call the left, to be able to do that, but it was the right that canceled you. And by the way, what I would consider a radical right. The Daily Wire, to me, is a radical right.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they're even reactionary. I don't think they're that conservative at all. Ben Shapiro, I mean, he's not like he's in favor of mass migration.
In 2016, they were alt-right.
No, they were not.
Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire were to the right of Mitt Romney.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean. And that's
they
what
weren't
I'm
Mormon
saying.
conservatives.
Yeah. My point was, that's who you were canceled.
This is insane. This is insane. How can this guy sit here and pretend like Mitt Romney is on the right? That dude, bro, he was like a Mormon. I guess, does that make him on the right? Because the guy, like the governor of Massachusetts, he like invented Obamacare, you know, in Massachusetts before there was Obamacare. But he's not. I don't even consider him on the right. I think he's just an establishment lizard, man. He's disgusting.
Bye.
I was also canceled by the left.
No, I know. They came along. They came along because some of the more egregious things that you said is edgelording. They came along, and whether you call it canceling or saying like, what the fuck? This is what I call it. What the fuck? Like, you know, like, what the fuck? You know, and so, like, I don't find it funny. And just like you're able to say, well, I just think it's funny, I'm able to say, I don't find it fucking funny. I didn't find it funny then, I don't find it funny now. I didn't find it funny that some of the things that, you know, you said about me. But I'm willing to sit here and listen to you because I want to get to this, and this is my whole point. What about fucking Donald Trump?
Yeah, we can get to that. Yeah,
how did you get, of all the people in the world, where you could look at and say he doesn't believe anything.
So for context for the viewer, Donald Trump is currently the sitting president of the U.S. For our audience abroad, the war with Iran was supposed to be over. Now we're back in business, baby. Khomeini had a pretty sick funeral, if you saw the video. So you guys don't like Trump? You used to like him.
I did.
You've always hated him. He's tried to destroy your life.
Yeah.
You guys were cool. You guys hung out once at Mar-a-Lago with Kanye. You've never hung out with Trump, right? Would you want to?
No. Do I want to? Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Look, man, I would like, can we get him? Can we get him in the motel room?
So I want you to imagine,
Let's get him in
I want you to imagine he's in the motel with us.
Yeah.
That's Trump. What do you want to ask him?
Oh, you know, put me on the spot. I don't want to ask Donald Trump anything because I know, and I think you would agree with me, is that Donald Trump isn't going to give me an authentic answer. Donald Trump never gives an authentic answer. He gives what people refer to as being authentic, but it's not authentic, it's audacious. It's like the example that I give that is the best metaphor for this is that he says he's 6'3", weighs 225 pounds. And everybody laughs because that's a little bit like edgelording, right? Everybody knows that he is maybe 6 feet and weighs maybe 300.
And that's why everybody likes it, because he's fast and loose with the details.
285?
He's a big guy. He's a pretty big guy.
Yeah, big guy. But by virtue of every picture ever taken of anyone that's 6'3", he's not 6'3".
I am.
Okay? Yeah, I know you are.
Thank you.
You're 6'2.5", maybe. That's fucking maybe. But my point is that the reason I don't have a question for him is because I'm absolutely certain that he is not going to give me an authentic answer. Look, he came into the Oval Office and the transition this time. And he told my dad that he thought that he did an amazing job. He did an amazing job with the economy. He did an amazing job that with NATO. He did an amazing job, and that he got a raw deal from his side, and anything he could do, particularly for Hunter. Hunter got screwed. Whatever I could do, you let me know. Bullshit.
Yeah, and we know that because they're all a bunch of disgusting crooks. The whole lot of them. It's a big fucking club that you ain't in.
went out and he has...
I mean, you and I, not Hunter. Fuck him.
Now, since then, done nothing but blame Joe Biden for every single one of his problems.
11 months ago, I inherited a mess. Joe Biden handed...
They all do that. That's the point. They're all in the same club, and they do what they got to do to sell us the bullshit and keep us from rioting, keep us from being pissed. And if they have to bash the guy who's retired, it's totally acceptable, because that's the job. That's the job, is getting us through another 4 years of getting fucked by this government.
Handed us over.
It's understood none of their reputations mean dick in service of ruling over us.
We're a country that was in very serious trouble. Biden gave us a horrible economy. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy.
He mentioned my dad's name or my family's name 6 times a day in the first 100 days of this administration. 6 times.
They give each other permission to do this because it doesn't matter anymore. Once the last president is out of office, he's retired. I guarantee you, he says to the guy on his way out, hey man, you know, if you got to fucking shank me or this and that, whatever, you just, yeah, do what you got to do, man. You know, that's the job. You know, like, you got to keep these stupid people under control. You got to get these stupid people in line some way or another. Dude, that's exactly what the deal is. It's all an edifice. None of it, they aren't even these people that they say they are. They're somebody totally, it's just, it's so absurd. Like, shut up, Hunter Biden. Oh, you're an idiot.
A day. He does it maybe 4 times a day now because he has no answers. All he has is a finger to point. And that's all he does. My point is, I don't know what to ask him. You know, why are you such a dick?
What does your dad think about the war?
Right? What I don't. I'm not going to get into what my dad thinks about the war. Is it really? Because I don't want to get into. I don't put words in my dad's mouth. Just like I wouldn't ask you what your dad thinks about the war. But your dad wasn't the president of the United States, which is a little bit different.
I don't even know if you know what's going on. It's Eagles fan.
Look, all I can say is this: is that every single Israeli prime minister since at least Jimmy Carter was president, has walked into the Oval Office or picked up the phone and called the president and said, we have to attack Iran. And every single one of them has said no. And they may not all have had the same exact reason, but one of the reasons they did is because they knew what the consequences would be as it relates to the lifeblood of the economy, is petroleum in the Straits of Hormuz. Every single one of them knew that. And every single one of them knew that there is no way, unless you send in ground forces, to end with certainty the nuclear program that the Iranians have supposedly been building. Every single one of them knew that the existing Ayatollah at that time, had put out a fatwa, an edict saying that they would never turn their nuclear technology into a bomb.
The supreme leader of Iran issued fatwa. Having nuclear weapons is forbidden, is haram, which means never we can have nuclear weapons.
It was a religious edict as strong as if the Pope had released an
yeah, and because we all know how many regiments and how many divisions that the Pope has to enforce his edicts.
Cyclical. But what did he do? He kills the Ayatollah. We get a son that now has a far more radical and far greater ties to the IRGC. And what do we have? The Straits of Hormuz are still closed. He said that they're brilliant people. I find that that's Donald Trump on everything. He said he'd end the war in Ukraine on day one.
That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president.
And I didn't hear anybody on the right and say, that's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. He said that he would build a wall. I don't believe in building a wall, but everybody said that's bullshit. And then when he got into office, the corruption, the level of the corruption, I mean, people believed or led to believe that there was this thing called the Biden crime family, right? I know that is that I didn't do a single piece of business when my dad was president. I made basically $200,000 a year selling paintings. I picked the thing that was the first.
Sure you did, Hunter.
This possible thing away from politics that I possibly could. Don and Eric have done over $1.3 billion in contracts, just in contracts for underlying companies that they have an ownership stake in with the Department of Defense. Don Jr. got the largest loan ever given by the Department of Defense of a company that he bought into like 3 months before they got the loan, because Peter Navarro picked up the phone and called DOD to get it done. My point is, I don't have anything productive to say to him that I know of. And when I listen to you and I listen to what you do, my question is how did you not see that before? He was a disaster in 2020, a complete and utter disaster as it related to what he did with COVID, regardless of whether you think we were wearing a mask or not.
Mm-hmm. The question for Nick is, how did you not realize 6 years ago that Trump would be this sort of letdown?
Because he doesn't hold, there's no ideological core to Donald Trump.
No, I agree with you. Well, you got to realize in 2016 where Republicans were at. We had John McCain, we had Mitt Romney, and the perception on the right is that they were insufficiently conservative and that they were losers. All they do is lose because they don't fight. There was this perception that the Democrats are ruthless, fighters. Obama crushed in 2008, when we thought he really should have lost in 2012. That was a Republican perception that Romney let us down. And so when Trump came on the scene in 2016, it was new, it was refreshing. He seemed like somebody that was really going to take on not just the Democrats, but also the media on our behalf. And what's more, you got to think about the mood of the moment in 16 as well and the message Trump was giving. Trump said in 16, it's just me and my son and my wife. We don't have any donors. We don't have any special interests.
More than $100 million put in of my money, meaning I'm not taking all of this big money from all of these different corporations like she's doing.
We're going to put America first, make the country great again. This is a very appealing message. And I talk all the time on my show about it, and realizing now that it was obviously a scam and now obviously unfulfilled completely. And you're right, Trump is non-ideological. The message was brilliant because it said, one, the system is broken. America's not great anymore, but it used to be. We can make it great again, but in order to do it, we need to actually bypass the system. Why is it that we never have victories? Why is it that things don't change? Because of money. He said, and that's why I'm different. I'm rich. I'm a billionaire. If I self-fund my campaign and don't take super PAC money, then I won't have to listen to the lobbyists and the special interests. I could fire the people I need to fire, do the things I need to do. That was like a very powerful message in 2016. And after 4 years, I was one of the people even back then that said, look, it never materialized. He did wind up taking super PAC money. He took AIPAC money for that matter, Sheldon Adelson money at that time in 16. Even in the first term, bombed Iran. In the first term, didn't build the wall. In the first term, didn't even reduce illegal immigration until 2019. And I remember the timeline perfectly because I covered it every day. It was like in May and June 2019, 20-year illegal immigration high in terms of month over month. But why did I go for him in 2020? At the height of the pandemic, we all thought on the right that if anyone other than Trump was president, you were going to get a vaccine mandate, which we really didn't want to be forced to take the vaccine. We thought the lockdown might never end. We thought that censorship would kick into overdrive. And so we said, really, it's unacceptable that anyone other than Trump would just be a disaster. And then obviously Biden came in, and I don't think it was as bad as we thought it would be, to tell you the truth, honestly. But by 2024, I mean, I was out in 2024 because everything you're saying is totally true. And I was telling people on my side, I was saying he's not going to build the wall. And I know you're against that. He's not going to do the mass deportations, promising that. He's not going to start no new wars. I said in 24, he's going to take us to war in Iran. And the Ukraine war, I said, that's not going to end in one day. Too complicated. We're already in it. And so I didn't vote. I didn't vote in 2024. And I told my followers not to vote for Trump for that reason. And it was only until a year later, after all the exuberance died down and people saw the bearing of the Epstein files, the war in Iran, people said, you know what? You were right. You were right about Trump. Even Alex Jones told me you were right about Trump. I was all in on him. So, I mean, as far as him being vaporware is concerned and a scammer and fundamentally, you're 100% right. No ideological core. He's not an ideological guy. Yeah, it is.
He's literally all about him.
And I agree. He's a cruel narcissist.
Yeah.
And you said I like the cruelty. I do not like the cruelty.
No, by the way, no. I didn't say you like the cruelty. I said I'm listening to your thing, and you said one of the things that you liked about Levin was the cruelty. And not for the cruelty's sake, it didn't seem to me like this, is because it was raw.
Dazzling,
it was, yeah. And that's, so I'm not saying that.
No, but I agree. I think he is cruel. And even what he said on Easter. I mean, we're Catholic. On Easter Sunday, he says we're going to annihilate Iran. And then he made fun of Allah on Easter Sunday. So, that kind of stuff, it just totally turned me off entirely.
Is there anything that you think Trump can do to like regain the support of the, I guess, Gen Z and millennial right?
No, it's over. People see what he's made of. And Hunter's right. He's a liar. He is a liar. He is a bullshit artist. And especially, you look at what he did with the Epstein files, with the war in Iran, what he did to Thomas Massie.
This guy named Thomas Massie. There's something wrong with him. They just vote no. They love voting no. They think it's good politically.
You realize that if you are America first, you have no place in this Republican Party. Because he said it. He said our Republican Party, or rather, he said MAGA is Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, Randy Fine. He said, and who is not MAGA? Megyn Kelly, Tucker, Alex Jones, Candace. And I think most Republicans said, well, we're with those other people. Yeah. We're not MAGA anymore. So
what do you think happens, Nick? I believe that we need radical change. And I'm not talking about violence or revolution or things like that. I'm talking about the only ways that you can have this kind of radical rethinking of the system. Like, there's so many questions. Like, what do you think about the Epstein files? What do you think about the accountability? Or do you think that he's broken the system to the degree that we now are basically in a dictatorship light?
No, I have a lot of confidence only because I think the Democrats are going to take the House in 26, which I support. I'm telling my people, vote Democrat. We want the Democrats in the House because what they're going to do is they're going to use the oversight powers to bring all the corruption to light. Because I know Republicans will watch this, and when you say, we didn't commit crime, they're going to be skeptical. However, for the sake of argument, let's say the income you made during Biden was ill-gotten. For the sake of example, it's just doesn't hold a candle. It doesn't even come close, doesn't even touch Jared Kushner, Howard Lutnick, Steve Witkoff, Don Jr., Trump himself. It's just a different sport. It's a different game entirely. And I want all that corruption to be revealed. And I think the Democrats are going to do it. I hope they get impeached. I don't think they'll be removed from office, but I think it'll basically drag this administration to a halt. And then in 28, I think there's an opportunity for a clean reset with both sides, right and left.
Hey guys, quick thing before we get back to Hunter and Nick. So these two guys, individually, Opus app and human.
To me, him being president is just a worse scenario in my mind.
For the uninformed viewer, what is the Palantir-JD Vance connection?
Well, Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel's very close with David Sachs. JD Vance was given his first job in Silicon Valley by Thiel. Thiel hooked him up with it. The CEO of that company said it was a personal favor to Thiel that I hired him. And then Thiel got him all his jobs at these various venture capital firms, including his own, and then funding JD Vance's venture capital firm. Peter Thiel gave $15 million to Vance when he ran for Senate in Ohio in 2022. Peter Thiel secured President Trump's endorsement for him in 22, which basically got him the nomination and the seat. So, I mean, as far as anybody's concerned, Vance owes his entire political career to Peter Thiel, who derives his fortune from Palantir.
And now he's a Catholic like you and me.
Well, he's a convert, so,
Beware the convert.
Yeah.
So do you think that Trump's unfulfillment of his campaign promises was a result of him being compromised by somebody connected to that structure, or do you think he always just never cared?
I don't know that he never cared. I just think that, me, I'm an idealist. So I think about the ideas and the concepts. Trump is a businessman. And so I think with him, everything's transactional. And I said this in 2024. Trump knew the voters would swallow anything. The voters would not walk away from the table because they were enamored with him.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's incredible.
So he knew he could break every promise with them in order to fulfill promises for the donor class, which is little tech, the Israel lobby, and Wall Street. The bankers, Tim Mellon, the big asset managers. So I think with him, everything's business. Everything's a transaction. And that's why you can't trust him. You have to do business. And in 24, I said we should all collectively say we're not going to vote unless he makes certain commitments. And not enough people did that. But I mean, that's fundamentally his flaw.
Your critique of this elite power structure sounds vaguely anti-capitalist.
It's not anti-capitalist. Capitalism says the capital, large amounts of capital will be held in private hands, which I believe in. I am a capitalist. But I think what is happening is that it's the way that money is used in government. There needs to be a distinct and separate national power that that subordinates the money power to it. The problem is the billionaires buy all the elections, buy all the media, control public perception. And so really we're all subsidiary then to the market. So I support capitalism, but it just has to be underneath the nation, underneath the state.
It seems like you have a pretty optimistic perspective on the year 2028.
Well, he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28, Trump is going to be president in 28.
Kind of keep coming back to this like clean election year. Do you think that's going to be like a renaissance year for outsider candidates and outside media channels like this one?
It can be. I think it certainly can be, because I think there's frustration on the right and on the left. You know, you see even in the primaries on the Democrat side, it's all DSA progressive types that are winning. You ironically have the same frustration on the left with their establishment as we have on the right. And so I think, you know, in 2028, it's going to be a year where there'll be a competitive Republican primary and Democratic primary, and hopefully the people make their voice heard and we get some new options, you know, maybe that reflect the will of the people more.
Yeah. And so what do you think about somebody like Mamdani?
Personally, I don't like him. I don't like some of the things that he said, like, for example, on 4th of July, when he takes the opportunity to sit there with, let's be honest, not a single white person in the room, and says, you know, the founding fathers would look down on us, the working people with their dirt-streaked hands against the billionaires. I think it's a little too divisive. I like his energy. I like that he's young. It's ironic. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
That's rich, buddy. But no, look,
but it seems pointed at me.
I know, but the thing.
Like he was dissing you in that video?
Yeah, a little bit.
Staring down the camera, like, it's for you, Nick, you son of a bitch.
People like me.
Yeah.
But what I see is somebody is using government for exactly the purpose that you just said, is to break the oligopoly, to target the anger towards a tiny percentage of the population that has controlled the levers of government from the White House down to the mayor's office in New York City or Peoria, Illinois, to that matter, and even more so as you go further down that chain. And so I look at somebody like Mamdani, and regardless of his delivery, which may be off-putting, particularly from somebody coming from your side, is that he's delivering, man. You know what? I mean, he's really delivering. You know, like I saw somebody going after Mamdani for some of this stuff, and particularly about rent control, you know. And I was like, well, how do you think the middle class was built after World War II and the GI Bill and rent-controlled buildings that created those communities that we were talking about an hour ago?
The GI Bill provides returning soldiers and veterans a range of benefits, including mortgages to purchase homes, loans to go to school, and this really was instrumental in creating the new American middle class.
Created the availability for somebody that was 26 years old, that had a job with the MTA, to be able to live and work in the city. And,
you know, that's kind of ridiculous. The middle class was built after the war because we were the only economy left on the planet that was still standing. Literally, the only one. We were the only manufacturers left standing. And like, people didn't have college degrees and stuff because there was a depression all the way up until the war. Like, I just can't believe that he just, like, basically, ooh, socialism is responsible for everything that we have today. That's basically what he just more or less just said. You know, how do they make all the greatest things that have happened to America or in America, or all these good events and good eras, they somehow like figure out a story that makes them the reason that happened? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Put the kid in a school with the idea that they would be safe walking there, and go to a park that, you know, where the water fountains worked. That's what I see him trying to do. I mean, by the way, it's just so tired and, you know, ridiculous. He's a communist. Like, it's about the communists. Like, who even says that anymore? Nobody. Like,
they do. They still say it all the time, you idiot.
You know what? We're just 1981, and, you know, we're watching Rocky V and worried about the communists. You know what I mean? I just don't. I don't get it.
Rocky IV.
He dies. Was it Rocky IV? my whole Philly legitimacy was just blown right there. Okay? But it's just kind of, and so I look at somebody like Mamdani, I think, well, he's just talking about good government. Like, what do you think about healthcare? Don't you think that there should be a single-payer system? Don't you think that there should be some guarantee as a right? Because I don't know how you make it in this country and aspire to a middle-class life and be able to afford a catastrophic event as it relates to your health. I mean, it's over. You're done.
Yeah. I don't support single payer, but I do believe that everybody should be entitled to some minimum level of coverage, catastrophic insurance. So in principle, I agree.
Which is Medicare for all to a certain degree, right? I mean, because that's all the Medicare does right now. But why is that radical?
See, I don't think that's necessarily radical, but
to them, it's because we've been convinced that it's a radical.
Them,
yeah,
those others.
Yeah, no, them. I mean the insurance companies.
Sure.
Yeah. And their lobbyists who control 55% of Congress, regardless of who's in power.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think that's necessarily the most radical. I think, though, he is with the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. He backs all these DSA candidates. And let's be honest, a lot of them are radical. Like I saw one of these candidates that just won in New York a couple weeks ago, this Chevalier candidate. There's a picture.
She hates my dad.
Yeah, I know.
She said about my dad.
She had awful things about him.
Yeah,
and she says, oh, I didn't have a napkin to wipe my hands, so I used the American flag.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, I think it's crazy. But like the same way that, I thought a lot of the stuff that some people that got elected in 2016, 2020, even during the Tea Party, kind of movement was, egregious. Again, egregious.
If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down.
So what do we do? What do we do, Nick?
I think a better question is...
for real, what do we do? Can you at least come a little bit to this way?
If you can come a little this way.
I can. Here's where I can come, is this. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
About the Holocaust?
Hunter can come in his mouth.
About that.
Yeah. No, I mean, really.
I do. And listen, here's what I'll say. Now that I'm older, I do think that's not the best approach. So I agree with you on that. And I see it as I get older, because let's be honest, saying those things.
Why does Nick keep saying, let's be honest, like over and over?
When I'm a younger guy, when I'm, 18, 20, it's like, you got to think that's just the age.
Jews are running society. Women need to shut the up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part.
And a lot of young people think that's funny and everything like that. I think that it also goes with the medium as well. Live streaming, social media, that's just what it rewards. So yeah, I think that people should try to move past some of that.
I'll try. But if you try.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
For real. And as it relates to when you talk about Israel, Netanyahu, Likud government, what's happening now, what's happened for the past 20 years in terms of whether the funding to Israel, whether you think it is. It's really important that you make a distinction between that and Jews. Because here's the thing, okay? Zoran Mamdani has a higher favorability rating in the United States among Jews than Bibi Netanyahu does. I think 65% of American Jews disagree with the approach that the Israeli government has right now. They don't disagree with you, but they completely turn off when they hear the conflation of Jews, Zionism, Israel, and think automatically anti-Semitism, whether it's fair or not, okay? But you have to understand it. And you have to understand it from a cultural perspective in which the recent history is only one data point in 2,000 years of history as it relates to what it means to be a Jew, of which there is what, 1%, 0.5% of the entire world's population? Because I don't know what it adds to your argument or what it adds to your...
The way that I feel about this nowadays is, they need to just go ahead and let it all go. They need to let that whole refusing to assimilate, refusing to just be like everybody else. I think it's time for them to let that shit go or leave. If you can, it's similar to like the Reconquista. It's like either you leave or if you're going to stay here, you're just like everybody else. You're not one of them anymore. You don't get to claim any of this bullshit victim. I think this is just, they need to leave it at the door. And the religion and all that shit, you guys, they just need to let it go because It's not acceptable.
Arguing about Miriam Adelson being able to give $300 million to Donald Trump and commit to giving another $300 million to get her way, and we end up in a war with Iran.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a valid point. I do think, though, that the issue's broader than just Netanyahu.
Oh, maybe, by the way, it obviously Netanyahu has a base within Israel, within the Jewish community here in the United States with Jared Kushner. You know what I mean? Jared Kushner, who is unelected, not a member of our government, is having as more control over the direction of the everyday lives of American people right now than anybody that I know of. And meanwhile, all he's doing is building a $6 billion private equity fund with the people he is negotiating for. And I always say, look who's paying him, and wondering whose interest that he is advancing. He's getting paid by the Saudis, he's getting paid by the Emiratis, he's getting paid by the Qataris, he's getting paid, go down the list. And for some reason, he is in control, along with Steve Witkoff, who is also not elected by anybody, of deciding whether or not the Straits of Hormuz are going to open up and whether or not our gas prices are going to go down. It may not matter to the three of us necessarily, an extra dollar, 60 cents or 85 cents. But you know what? To 85% of the people that live in America, it means it's the difference between whether or not they're going to be able to pay rent, whether or not you're going to be able to actually put the gas in your car in Montana to drive to your job on the ranch.
Well, and here's what I'll say to you, and this is something kind of why I want to do this interview, is emphasize the message that as far as Jews are concerned in general, I think that it's the same standard that applies to everybody, which is as long as you're patriotic, as long as you believe Americans should be put first by their government, I have no problem at all. And I think that everybody in the country should be treated with dignity and respect and have their civil rights. It's just this acute problem of these people, like you mentioned, like Larry Ellison and Miriam Adelson and Jared Kushner, they're putting some other country before the interest of our own. And that, in principle, is what I have a problem with.
There is going to be some people who watch this and feel like, all right, no take-backsies. And they might feel like you're just kind of trying to moderate, and that now that you've achieved your goal and got a lot of support, you're kind of moderating because your main aim has already been achieved, which is to sort of have a generational run and pop off. So now you're trying to kind of make your way more into the mainstream discourse, but you'll just go back again into the same sort of reactionary rhetoric once you're back in a number one spot.
Well, I don't even think I'm moderating. And I even told our mutual friend, it's not even a moderation. It's not even an apology. It's clarifying. Because, all along I've been saying this message. It's just that the way that I'm saying it changes and evolves. And I also think how people respond to it changes as well. Because let's be honest, 10 years ago, there was a very different kind of conversation about Israel. You could not mention it in a negative or critical way without being utterly annihilated in politics. We all know that ever since October 7th, that's not the case anymore. So I think that there's sort of something reciprocal happening, which is that people are receiving me differently. And as someone that's growing older and more mature, I'm even representing myself differently. So I wouldn't even call it moderating, just clarifying. People are more receptive, and I'm maybe better able to articulate it.
And you think that's because you've kind of gotten older and been able to have like a longer career in media to reflect on different changes in your perhaps brain chemistry and lifestyle?
That's a huge thing. I mean, I know it's 27. I have a very different mentality than I did when I was 20.
What's the main difference, you think?
Just more even keeled. And I think too, it's like when you're 20, you're just like a maniac. And then you hit 25 and you're like, all right,
I was a maniac when I was 49. My brain chemistry has definitely changed in the last 7 years too.
Yeah, you're shot out there, Sparky.
I do believe that people can grow and they can change. And I'm not asking you to, and I'm not asking you to say things, but there are certain things that I just hope that you can hear without feeling attacked. That some of the things that you said, whether it's edgelording otherwise, are really hurtful. And then people completely turn off to the idea of being able to listen to you about anything. And then you get dug in more and you're like, go fuck yourself. Like, you can't take a joke kind of thing. And that's not what it is. It's not just wokeism. It's not. It's people being really, really hurt by it. Mm-hmm. And I accept your apology for all of the mean things you said about me.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on my apology tour. Is that the one thing you did say? You said I was a degenerate crackhead.
Me?
And I have the problem with that, not you.
Me?
Yeah. And
I also said you were cool, though.
Yeah, no, by the way, you said a degenerate crackhead, and you know what? I'm not even mad about that, because I was a degenerate crackhead. I spent more time on my hands and knees, smoking anything that even remotely resembled crack cocaine. It's true.
And now you're sober. Yeah. I find it interesting. You also said that you've never drank before.
Right. Yeah, I've never had a drink, never done drugs.
That's because you grew up, with me. You're like, don't be that guy.
I grew up with you too, and I was doing.
Yeah. You're not as smart as he is. My brother never drank. My dad too. And
I was gonna ask you, Nick, what kind of prompted your choice to just like be sober for life and never drink?
Well, a big part of it is I had a lot of addiction in my family. My grandfather was an alcoholic, committed suicide. Uncle died from an overdose from crack cocaine. My mom, 2 of her uncles, heroin addicts for their entire lives. And it just devastated my family, devastated both of my parents. And so I know I have that addictive personality and probably have the genetics for it. And not only that, but I like being rational. I like having my sober mind. I think that's actually a sacred thing. To have unimpaired reason. So the thought of losing control and even being tempted to get into, worse things, I just thought it's just not worth the risk. So it's just never for me.
Well, how much, by the way, sorry, do we have time? Yeah. Is it, how much do you think COVID warped not just your generation, but everybody? Because I have this theory that there was this thing that broke for us with COVID. And that nobody's really come to terms with how traumatic that was for everyone.
And especially for the younger generations. Yeah. I think severely less for the older generations, but for the younger people, missing the graduations, missing critical years in school, that's when the socialization happens. That's when you learn to get along. And so you think about how this generation is going to grow up having 2 to 3 lost years. Yeah. No sports, no school, no extracurriculars, vacations. It's devastating. And we already had a problem with that isolation, social dislocation, loneliness. I can't even imagine. So it's going to be devastating, I think. But that's a lockdown.
So maybe if you're watching this video after this, put your phone or computer away, go outside, make a friend, just do anything but scroll to the next video. Back in the day during Nickelodeon, they had Go Outside Day.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we need like one day a week where it's mandated in a tech oligarch sense that no one can go on their phone or use the computer.
Man, I would love that. I mean, that's one thing. Is if we could, the one thing we could all agree on. The way I say it now is you're all carrying around a bag of heroin in your pocket. Everybody is, and it's probably even more dangerous in some ways.
Would either of you guys ever run for office?
Are you asking me for real?
Yeah.
No. I think that politics, the way that my dad engaged in it, and that I'm obviously incredibly biased, is an incredibly noble thing. But that's not where my head is in terms of what I want to do. I want to reach. My whole thing is that forget all of this. I want to reach 1 million people in addiction. I think one of the biggest things about addiction, and one of the reasons why it continues to be this epidemic, is that we don't talk about it. Is that you don't even talk about it around your dinner table. And what you realize, if you're coming from my particular unique situation, is that everybody comes to me and they tell me their story. And sharing that is like, breaks that cycle of shame. And so I want to reach 1 million people in addiction.
How about you, Nick? Would you ever run for office?
I don't think so, no. Just because I don't think you can fully be authentic when you're running for office because it's a different role. And I think my role, they say, according to the Overton window idea.
Ideas that are inside the Overton window are ideas that are politically safe. The public is ready to accept them.
They say that if you want to change people's opinions and what they consider acceptable, you kind of have to be the first to the punch and maybe considered a bad person or evil or whatever in order to promote your view. And so that just doesn't lend itself to that kind of politics. So I think to protect my own integrity and authenticity of the message, I have to not run for office.
See what we just did? We just made probably the entire audience happy. One half is glad I'm not running. The other half is really glad he's not running.
Well, if not you guys, then is there any candidate or prospective candidate that you feel like could run in 2028 that would, have a fair shot that y'all support?
Nobody in particular for me. I haven't really been too impressed with who's come out of the Republican Party. So I'm hoping they'll just be somebody we haven't heard of, somebody maybe that hasn't been in office before.
He's voting for Gavin Newsom.
Both sides are depressing. Both sides. I mean, J.D. Vance looked halfway decent until, you started to see him, get to know him, then it's like, oh, this guy's a scum.
That's right. Yeah. Well, if it's Newsom and Vance, I'd certainly think about it.
Yeah.
How about you? Anybody that, you know, creates a twinkle in your eye?
No, I think that there are a lot of people. I mean, I know that you think that you're going to laugh at me, but I personally like Gavin Newsom a lot. I think that he's authentic in those beliefs, whether you agree with them or not. Thomas Massey's principled stand as it relates to the Epstein files was incredibly courageous.
Do not let the Senate muck this bill up. I am sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island.
And that's why he's not going to be a congressman anymore. But that's why, you know, he could potentially make a really strong national candidate.
And you guys think America will exist in a post-Epstein capture freeway?
Will America exist?
Yeah, like, you know, will America survive the current power structure's stranglehold on the media, the political system, and all public affairs?
I don't know. I think AI is going to really be transformative. It's interesting. Nobody seems to be talking about that.
Transformative in what sense? Like for bad?
Concentration of power. That's the single biggest. And you know what? I'm actually on the liberal side on this with Anthropic over the, let's say, you know, because there's this battle between these effective altruists, effective accelerationists, and I really am nervous about what's going to happen, especially in the next 4 years, because they're racing towards this artificial general intelligence, artificial superintelligence, and that, without a doubt, is going to be the single biggest influence on the country, and so I'm really worried about that.
And what about that concerns you? Is it surveillance?
It's the concentration of power in the hands of whoever controls it. Whichever firm is the one to develop ASI.
It's as if they have God at that point. Like, that's why it's so profound. You know, it's going to be like like Elon said, you know, if it gets to the point where it's artificial general intelligence, you know, who do you think's going to be in charge? The AI or chimpanzees? Could you imagine chimpanzees being in charge of AI? Well, yeah, we're like one step above that, maybe. So it's like, it's going to be pretty transformative it could be, you know, it could be, you know, even that could be an understatement. Who knows?
That could confer dictatorial-like powers upon the CEO of that company. So whether that's Sam Altman or it's Dario, you know, if the artificial intelligence is aligned with its creator, that person will become the most...
Right? They could hack into like nuclear codes and stuff. I mean, legitimately, if whoever gets that, basically if it was like Austin Powers, they could hold the world ransom, basically. But, you know, that's kind of, it's pretty profound.
Powerful person in the history of mankind
it's almost an inherent truth, in my opinion, what he just said, is that the greatest leap in human evolution is going to happen within our lifetimes. AGI, let alone, you know, superintelligence, is everything that we think about the way in which we exist in the world completely changes. And I don't think that that's in any way hyperbole. And if you listen to the people that are developing these technologies right now, they are the most alarmist.
I think AI will probably, most likely, sort of lead to the end of the world.
If you want to know what life's like when you're not the apex intelligence, ask a chicken.
And now, by the way, I think that there's an enormous possibility for incredibly beneficial things to society, like being able to cure cancer. I just think of this one thing. Everything that AI is built on is ours, belongs to you, and you, and you, all the way back through the human civilization.
Where's the mechanism that forces that, though, Mr. Biden? How does that happen? What's the mechanism? He kind of sounds like an idiot.
And that's what they're stealing from us, and they're putting it into the hands of literally a handful of people. All of that human knowledge, and the value that comes from it. And I think that that's ours. So any AI that is developed, particularly that goes to HEE, should be it should be communal. It should be shared in the not just the beneficial offshoots of it, but the actual money of it should be shared.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's like nuclear bombs, but it's also a commodity at the same time. The weapons potential, the economic potential, I think that's going to be the biggest thing. And I hope on some level that liberals win that argument, because what Trump is doing with the Pentagon.
If they don't, really, basically, if it's not communal, we're going to be enslaved by it. Without a doubt, 100. That it's certain that either by the AI itself or by whoever's wielding it. But that's a fact. If they don't win, we're slaves. If maybe not even that much. Maybe we're just dead. Who knows?
On Anthropic and OpenAI, the way they're handling it is so reckless and sloppy and just honestly
it's like a kid with his daddy's shotgun. That's what it's like. That's what these guys are like. That are doing the AI thing. Sam Altman, this stupid Jay. It's like we've got a 5-year-old handling a shotgun.
Unbelievable. So we need some adults in the room on that one.
Well, it's been a great conversation. I appreciate you guys for coming. You guys have any final questions you want to ask to each other, or maybe a message you want to give to the American people?
I still believe in America, and I truly believe in these conversations. And I think everyone that's watching would think that I would not want to sit down with Nick. And this, I guess, what I'm getting at with you is that I hope you see the humanity of me, and so when the way that you talk in the future takes that into consideration. And what I'll do is I'll see the humanity in you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great conversation, and I think that we have to come together on the things that we agree on, which is, for example, that we love the country, we both believe in America, we both want the country to succeed, and I like what you said, that we see the fundamental humanity in each other. And I think that especially in the events of the last year, the killing of Charlie Kirk, you realize that's actually not something that people on both sides share. I think there's people on the right and the left that don't see the humanity in the other side. And so maybe that's the new consensus, or that's where we can come together, is on the basis that, we disagree on fundamental issues, and even sometimes it gets heated and we yell at each other, but that we do ultimately want the best for each other. We love each other. We want the country to succeed. And I think that's a starting point for any solution and any conversation.
All right, American brothers. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Good job, guys. After interviewing Hunter and Nick about a variety of contentious topics, not limited to, but including the Iran war and ongoing conflict in the Middle East, I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I should just go.
Anyhow, that was pretty good. I mean, so far as it could be good. I mean, there was a few nuggets in there, like when Nick was talking about white identitarianism, and Hunter, he was chill about it. Like normally they wouldn't have allowed that. He would have immediately jumped on him. Recognized what? Yeah, it was pretty good, I thought. What'd you guys think? I mean, I think it was at least pretty balanced. I've seen other people talk Nick's ear off, and that's never any fun. The AI event, I don't know about that. Who knows? I mean, I don't see kids going to school and sitting at desks if we have AI. I think that's kind of a done deal. Like, there's not going to be such a thing as school if we have AI. Why would the kids have to leave their house to go to a teacher? Why would they? Everybody's going to go to school at home while they're doing other stuff, most likely. I mean, it's going to be very different. No doubt about it. It's not going to be, it's like Hunter said, really, we can't even fathom. It's, if it's the sort of AI that humans have been dreaming about for hundreds of years, thousands of years, yeah, it's not going to be, there's not going to be the normal, and we're going to be living by the data. That's where that goes, because the idea of AI is that we would have a database AI to consult. Okay, what's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do that? And the AI has the data to give answers. So we're going to go to like an ultra efficient model of life. Like, I mean, that's what AI kind of implies, is that we're going to do everything as efficiently as possible, and that efficiency is probably going to be the word of the day going forward. And like the route you take to work, if you got to go to work, that is, the route you take to work is always going to be the perfect route. Everything, and that also kind of steals risk. It removes risk and it removes choice. And when you remove risk, really, you're removing the whole point of choice. It's like you're acquitting yourself, and you can either make the wrong choice or the right choice. But going forward, it's going to be like you always make the right choice. Isn't that's going to be weird. And it's going to be, I don't know. I'm sure we'll find a way to adapt to it. No doubt about it. But I mean, that's the whole idea of AI, is that less people would die, everything would become more efficient or safer, more efficient. And, that's pretty sterile, if you ask me. That's kind of, the whole point of life, to my mind, is having the choice. And it's like, it feels so good when you made the right choice because of the alternative, what could have been, as opposed to what, and that's what I love that about life. Like, that's the whole point of life to me. That's why I live my life, because I kind of want to test my wits against life. And I think that's the point, and a lot of people, I've known a lot of people that didn't make it. They're not here today. And the AI is going to call that into question. I mean, I've just thinking about it, the last few minutes, I never thought about it like this either before. I just that kind of came to my head, like right now, that, yeah, we would be living by the numbers, and there's going to be a lot less choice involved with life. And it's not like you're going to be forced to do anything. It's that you're going to be told or shown the data, and there's not going to be any sort of a debate. You can see what the best choice is. You know what I mean? Like, that's going to be different. Big time. And I mean, we'll figure it out. And this stuff with the AI, like, I watched that Elon Musk interview, and it was pretty good. And honestly, I'm not sure. I don't think the whole interview is out, but it was really good. I thought it was really good. Here we go. I got it. I just need to quick on OBS. Yeah, it was a really good interview. Really was. And I like Elon Musk. He doesn't take any shit from these people. And honestly, like, I'm kind of glad that he's one of the people that's on the inside, and that, like, he's making decisions. He's in there when they're making decisions about AI and humans and stuff. He's there. And that kind of makes me feel a little bit better, because, I think he's a regular guy. He's a decent guy, and I don't trust him, but it's like, we don't really have any other choice. It just makes me feel better that he's there.
Politics. You don't even live there.
No, it was a clip. I forget where I thought I watched it on X. It was with The Economist. That's weird. Here we go. Oh, this is the full interview. I didn't even see this.
It's hard to imagine the future where there's not an overwhelming amount of artificial intelligence. Meaning, like in 10 years, I would expect artificial intelligence to be far greater than the sum of human intelligence. Like far greater. In fact, I think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
In 5 years?
Roughly 5 years is my guess. So there really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps.
At a more prosaic level, what will life be like?
The most likely outcome is an age of amazing abundance, where anyone can have anything they can think of. This may sound preposterous, but well, here we are in 2026. Let's see where we stand in 2036. Now, of course, there are things that could derail this, like a massive global thermonuclear war or something like that. But assuming that there's not World War III, I think we're headed for an age of amazing abundance. So this is, I guess, a message of optimism and excitement about the future.
So we'll talk about the abundance in a second, but just sort of very prosaic matter. How are your companies going to be making money? Because when you, in the SpaceX IPO prospectus, it looked as though the overwhelming amount of the revenue would be coming from AI, from Grok, really. It won't be transporting things to space, as SpaceX is now doing. What will your companies be doing in 10 years? And how will they make money?
Well, you can really think of the economy as digital and physical intelligence. So what we have right now advancing very rapidly is digital intelligence, obviously, with AI that is, it seems, almost with every passing week, there are more AI breakthroughs. It can do something amazing that it couldn't do before. But it's still somewhat confined to the digital realm. It doesn't have end effectors. You need the end effectors in the form of humanoid robotics. You need basically lots of bots, in a nutshell. You need lots of bots. And then you can go from intelligence manifesting itself only digitally to shaping atoms.
Jesus.
And you say, what is an economy? An economy is the production of goods and provision of services. And if you have vast numbers of robots with vast amounts of digital intelligence, you have a sort of a quasi-infinite economy. So this is really the future is going to be very, very different from the past. There's no analogy or metaphor that I think illustrates the magnitude of change that we're going to experience here.
I understand that, and I'm also trying to kind of figure out what that world will look like. But in some way, you
good.
have
It's going to be pretty incredible.
Yeah, we'll also do. There are some risks too.
There's
We'll
risks.
come to those. We'll come to those. But
yes.
just on how then you make money, because in the end, people are buying your shares because they expect you to make money. Do you sell
I'll
the
make another
robots?
prediction. Money won't matter in 2036.
Wow.
I'm not sure that the people who bought your shares think that.
You know, I kind of believe him, but we'll see it when it gets here, I suppose, but that's crazy. Like, can you imagine that world? It's like, that's so foreign to what we know of as reality.
Money won't matter in 2036.
Well, what do you want money for? You want money for goods and services, right? You want money for, obviously, food, housing, transport, entertainment.
Money is for people.
Well, if that is so abundant.
And if you have robots doing everything, what would people need money for, basically? When none of us need each other to do anything for us or ourselves, there's always a robot to do it.
That there's more, that the robots and AI are providing more goods and services than any human could possibly consume What do you need money for in that case?
But you're creating these robots. Are you
I guess
then
between
selling
now and then you'll need money, sure.
Are you selling these robots? Are you selling humanoid robots, or are you producing goods and services with the humanoid robots that you control? Like, are you the Levi Strauss? Are you selling?
I think I would probably be. It would be an exercise in vanity for me to think that I would be controlling
Thank you, sir.
super genius AI that is vastly smarter than me. I think what we can and should try to do is to make sure that the AI has good values, that it cares about humanity, and that it wants us to be happy and prosper.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, fellas, if you haven't already. Do a show every weeknight at 8 o'clock.
I think it probably will be.
Leave a comment, too. I want to hear what you think.
What my biological neural net tells me is that the most important thing for AI safety is to be maximally truth-seeking and curious. If that's the case, I think it will foster humanity.
So let's unpack that. You're sure that humans will no longer be in control in 10 years' time?
I think it is unlikely, in the same way that if the difference in intelligence between AI and humans is vastly greater than the difference in intelligence between AI and chimpanzees, it's hard to imagine that the chimpanzees would be in charge.
I'm really struck by...
Let that sink in, that kind of made me, that opened my eyes. I just watched this a few hours ago, and when he said that, I was thinking, whoa, he's got a point there. We know how close we are to chimpanzees. Everybody knows this. We all know that we're not that far from, chimpanzees are not that far from us. And when you think about it in those terms, the chimpanzees being in charge of the AI, doesn't that just seem absurd? Well, how is it any different of us being in charge of the AI? Most people are about as smart as a chimp, if you ask me.
Essentially, an evolved form of chimpanzee. So it wasn't that long ago that we were swinging through the trees, eating bananas in the jungle. And we still eat bananas, by the way. We do. And there's still, bananas.
Sometimes swing through trees as well.
Yes, we sometimes swing through trees. It's kind of fun. It's sort of reminiscent of the past. For all time's sake, swing through the trees once in a while. Probably, there should be more swinging through trees. I bet it's way more fun than people think.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely with you on swinging through trees.
Until
I
you
love
fall and break
trees.
your arm.
But I'm really struck listening to you say this now, because I've been listening to a bunch of things that you've said over the years.
Yeah.
And 10 years ago, you were on a podcast, I think it was with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and you said that the thing that terrified you most was rapid recursive self-improvement in AIs.
Yes.
And that you said, and it really struck with me, you said that we will just be the pet Labradors at the best.
Well,
then. Now you see...
Labradors are pretty happy creatures, that's my experience.
But in 2023, you asked for a slowdown in AI because you were worried about it.
Well, I signed on to, as one of many, 500 people. I was just, one of many signatories on that thing.
But I think even last year you said, where was it, Ted Cruz's podcast, you said there was a 10 to 20% chance of killer robots wiping out humanity.
Yes.
So you sounded worried then.
Powerful chimps.
Now you seem very relaxed about it. Have you changed your view?
I still think there's risk associated with AI and robots. It's not zero.
There's no stopping it. There's no stopping this freight train. It's cruising whether we like it or not. So we'd better just sit back and enjoy the ride. But I think he says that in a second anyway.
I guess I've come to my sort of philosophical conclusion is to look on the bright side. I can't see any way to really stop this incredible momentum of AI and robots. And at times I sort of think, well, perhaps, even if there was a stop button, we probably shouldn't press it because the most likely outcome is incredible abundance for all.
That's what I thought, actually. It struck me that now you seem to have decided it's inevitable. Let's hope for the best and go for the ride.
Yeah, yes, pretty
Famous
much.
Last words.
Let's enjoy the ride. Is I think my philosophy at this point. Because honestly, there seems to be just an inexorable progress here in AI and in robots that
but
even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't.
Do you think there's still a 10 to 20% chance that killer robots mean the end of humanity? That's a high P-doom, as they say.
Well, in the long run, we're all dead, of course. So I mean, according to the standard model of physics, the end of the universe is a long, boring, sort of thin, gray soup of gradual cooling. Meaning it's sort of the heat death of the universe is called. So now if the heat death of the universe is in fact the outcome for our reality, then it really is all about the journey. Because the destination is terrible.
Yeah, but 10 years is not very... I get that, but that could be a long way ahead.
Very long way.
And you're basically saying,
very long way.
If it's 10 to 20% in 10 years, would you go into one of your rockets if you thought there was a 10 to 20% chance of it blowing up and killing you?
Yes, but let's say you can't do anything about it.
Okay.
I guess the only thing we can try to do is minimize the probability of the bad outcome.
Right? It's like as soon as somebody says, well, no, we need to stop this. It's like, well, tell me how. I'm with you. Tell me now, how do we do it? I mean, essentially that's what the deal is here.
But trying to stop the intelligence in robots, I mean, for the longest time, I declined to participate in AI, or which created OpenAI as essentially a counterweight to Google, because at the time they had more or less a monopoly on AI. And then Anthropic spun out of OpenAI, and if anything, it seems like what my actions have really accelerated AI. I wasn't really aiming to accelerate AI, but in creating OpenAI and then having Anthropic spin out of that, and now currently Anthropic's the leader in AI. I mean, these actions have actually resulted in knock-on effects that accelerated AI, which wasn't really my intention. So it just seems like all roads lead to acceleration of AI. So then I'm like, okay, well, you can just sort of be sad about it or join the club, I suppose.
Well, you've certainly joined the club.
Yeah.
You've definitely joined the club. But
you can't beat them, join them,
Well, you've clearly done that and very successfully. But what about trying to minimize the risks? And, a number of the other leaders of model makers have been pushing for different ways to try and minimize the risks. Just last week, Demis Hassabis came out with a proposal for a private public regulator. I think you said it was a good starting point for discussions, I think. Do you think you guys should be working more actively to get something in place to control the risks, or do you think that's impossible too?
My recommendation to Demis, because I talked to him for a few hours before he published his piece, was that the most immediate thing that we could do is to have the leading AI companies at least just meet. We'll have some sort of call once every few weeks, and just discuss any safety and security issues, and that before a breakthrough, sort of a new frontier model is released, something that sort of is far more intelligent than anything that already exists, that there's an opportunity for the various competing AI companies to test that model for any harmful effects, and to be able to recommend pausing to address some of these security issues. I think that's sort of the easy, quick thing that we can do, and it can evolve to more than that over time. But that's that I think would be a smart move.
But why haven't you done that yet? I mean, there's like 5 of you, right? I mean, everyone knows the first name: exactly. Dario, Demis, Sam. I mean, you don't all like each other very much. Yeah, but you're not all. I mean, you're also all competing, right? You all want to be first.
Yes, but that's where I think the competitors can keep each other honest. So meaning like if like, I think it's quite difficult for someone in the government who doesn't have a deep technical understanding and isn't driving the frontier of AI to know whether something should be released or not. However, the competitors, I think, can, if given sort of a week or two to review a new model, can highlight issues and have an incentive to keep all the competitors have an incentive to keep the others honest.
Do you have enough trust between you to do that? I mean, you don't much like each other. Wouldn't Sam Altman just think you're going to nick all his ideas if you did that?
Well, we're just talking about a week. Honestly, I think as little as a week is all that would be needed for private testing. It's not to hand over the AI. It's just to test it.
To test it. Have you proposed this?
Yeah, just to test it via an API or something. I think that would probably be a good thing to do.
But have you proposed it? I mean, you could presumably organize that.
That's what I suggested to Demis, and I guess I'll talk to Daria about it too. There's also, of course, some very competent Chinese AI companies that several that are very good. The new Kimi model.
Kimi K3, yeah, the one that came out last week.
Apparently, that one blows that Claude Fable 5 one. It makes it seem like child's play, and not only that, but because it's a subsidized company, that Moonshot, they're charging like a third of the price for this Kimi K3 for like 3 times as good AI, and they're making all of these fat billionaire American companies that just want to suck subsidies out of the American people and force data centers on us. They're getting whipped by an Asian company with crappy chips, and the Asian company charges what? And get this, when they come out with the model, instead of like Anthropic did, where they make a cash grab, basically, they go for as much money as they can get. They charge as much, and they take on new people every day. It's as if you get less quality with the product because they take on so many new customers. It floods their servers, so it makes their service suck. So people, they don't realize it's not like what normal, when AI is going, how you could have unlimited and as much as you pay for. No, Claude, they took on as many customers as would ask. This Kimi, it's a waiting list right now, because they could have done what Claude did, where they just take the money. They take the $30 a month or $40 a month, and then you get the service you get. Not these guys with Moonshot. They put a waiting list on because they didn't want to affect the customers who already had paid for the service, and they didn't want to damage their experience. So everybody's on a waiting list, and it's supposed to be like it did what DeepSeek did, where it scared all the American AI. You know how they're like, "Oh, we're in the lead. We're in the lead." Well, this Kimi and that DeepSeek, the Chinese come out with it, and they're just blown away because we don't have any sort of a lead at all. And the reason being is over there, it's an actual free market where each company, little AI company, it's like there's 1,000 flowers blooming and only the best one rises to the top. Whereas over here, we're like giving them government benefits and like letting them have their own power plants. It's really dumb. Like, we're not doing it in a capitalistic or in a traditionally American way like we always have. No, they're picking winners. Anthropic, OpenAI, these are bad people. Like, it really sucks that I mean, I guess Anthropic is okay, but and Elon is okay, but it's OpenAI. Half of these people or half of these AI companies are, maybe more, maybe all of them, they're bad. They're bad news. These are the kind of people that enslave the human race, kind of a thing, like a dystopian future novel or something.
I mean, it was almost as good as Fable, right? So
well,
It's better, supposedly.
I think realistically, Fable is still clearly the smartest model. I think anyone realistically would say that that's still the case. But the Kimi model is getting quite close to Fable.
Really?
Now,
That's not what
Anthropic
I heard.
had Mythos, from which Fable is derived. I think they had that ready in February. So they've got sort of what they call, I'm not sure what they call it, but Mythos 2 or Fable 6 or something much better than what they had in February. They almost certainly have, not almost certainly, they certainly have right now. So, and I think they could release it at any time.
All right, so you have a good
Just
weekend,
before we get on
Valenti.
to releasing, how do you think about the Chinese models and the geopolitics of it? Are you worried about the Chinese catch?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't realize I didn't realize this was going to be on tonight, or at least the Nick Fuentes thing was going to be on tonight, and it kind of just threw me off. Got me thinking about that. But I was thinking last night about a lot of stuff, and I didn't realize, but I was watching something about Florida, and it was talking about the history of Florida and the history of Tampa. And everybody knows how that's a cigar city. It used to be the capital of the cigar capital of the world. And because they had more Cuban cigar workers in Tampa, and they made more Cuban cigars than Cuba. And as far back as like the 1900s, as far back as the Great Depression, even in the 50s, they almost forever, they have had all street signs, or maybe not street signs, but all the signs, and everything was in Spanish and English in America, like in Tampa. And I didn't realize that. Like, I had no idea that that was the case, that things kind of have always been this way. Like, there used to be French parts too, like Louisiana is very French. And there's a lot of stuff to think about, and it just, I don't know, it kind of made me feel a little bit better about going forward, like, and how there's a lot of people speaking Spanish in America today. It's like, well, it's kind of been that way forever. And I was watching the thing on the cigars, and there was an interesting detail that first of all, I've been inside those old cigar factories. There's a U-Haul storage outside of Tampa that I once moved somebody into, or I moved it was a U-Haul, so I moved their stuff there from downtown. And I remember it was brick, 2 stories, huge, with a big factory floor on the first and second floor, and with a wood floor. I mean, it was wild. And I remember me and my brother talking about what we thought the building was for, and we didn't guess cigars, but I'm positive that was an old cigar factory. But and I had no idea that was the case. But yeah, I moved this guy in there. And it's just like this old brick building, and it used to have windows, like a lot of windows that had been bricked up. But I wondered why it had so many windows, because the cigar makers have to be able to see what they're doing. They have to be able to see the cigar. And it was just kind of interesting. Like, I didn't know all that. I knew that Tampa was a cigar city, but I didn't know how. Like, and they used to have this job called a lector, which is would have put a pulpit in the factory, and they would have a guy. The workers would pay a guy, they called him a lector, to read for their entire shift, and the guy made more money than any individual factory worker. Like, the guy made a lot of money, and they had to be like kind of like an actor, because a good storyteller, where they change their voice with, and their inflection with the story, they get dramatic with it. But that was a really, like, that was a big thing. And I was thinking, geez, I get that. Like, and the workers insisted that that they have a guy like that, or somebody that read the newspaper, books, whatever. But, and I was thinking about, I was like, man, that's like before they had headphones and stuff. You just like hired a guy to stand there and talk, and just talk and carry on. And I just thought that was so cool. And what was kind of neat about it was what they were saying was, because they had somebody reading the news and reading stuff, they were the most informed group of workers in the country. Like, these people knew more than, like, not only did they know more than a lowly factory worker anywhere else, but they knew, they were politically informed, and all they were just informed, and they were Cubans. I didn't realize how many they basically settled Tampa, and the one of the factory, like the first factory owner, he like would build homes, they called them casitas, and then sell the homes to the workers, or kind of like sort of like a buy to own or rent to own. And it was like a kind of like a little commune, or a little paradise, basically, where they made really good money, like, and there was just a lot going on there. Whereas it was at one point just a mosquito, yellow fever, malaria. I mean, a lot of people don't realize this, but Florida was like the malaria capital of the world for a long time. In fact, the county I live in was called, and the county Disney is in, was called, it was all the same county, by the way. It was called Mosquito County. I'm not even kidding. It was called Mosquito County. And it's like 4 counties now, but that's what they called it. And basically my brother me and him were talking about this, and he goes, could you imagine this? Like, why would anybody want to come to a place like this, or that's Mosquito County? I'm like, yeah, that's the point. That's the point. It's supposed to be a warning. Danger. Don't go here. You'll be eaten alive by animals and bugs. But it was like a quarter of the state of Florida practically. But how they fixed it? A shitload of DEET. They dropped a ton of DDT in Florida. Like it took years off of our parents' lives. Like, I'm talking about Americans. Like, this was bad, like they just dropped a lot of a kind of a toxic chemical, and they just dropped it and just killed, and it's livable here now. It's actually livable here. It didn't used to be. And Africa, you could go, it's not out of the realm of possibility if you visit Africa, that you might not come home. And it might be mosquitoes or bugs or something that gets you, malaria. And it was that way in America too. Like, actually, America was a really wild place. It still is. Like, tornadoes and stuff, those don't occur on anywhere else on planet Earth. All the tornadoes on planet Earth happen in Tornado Alley, basically. Isn't that insane? Like, we have the one place where these crazy ass, like, Europe doesn't have any of these things. Doesn't have tornadoes, hurricanes. Why is it that we got all that stuff and they don't have any? I think it's because we're an island. We're kind of like an island fortress, but we have oceans on both sides. Europe and Asia only have oceans on one side. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I live 90 minutes away from Tampa. I didn't realize you lived in Tampa, Valenti. Yeah, I live 90. I used to live in Clearwater off of Keene Drive, I think. Yeah, Keene Drive in Clearwater. But yeah, it's the same here. especially in the summer, the nature, the wilderness wants to take everything back over really quick. Like in a week. If I remember when I was a kid, if I didn't cut the grass every week, if it went 2 weeks, I'd have to cut it 2 or 3 times at a high setting. It was kind of crazy. And I did you guys know I did line clearance for a while. And that's all that is cutting back plants. And it is crazy, especially in Florida. The wilderness is so vicious, and the undergrowth is so thick. You can't walk through a forest. It's so thick. You physically cannot walk through it. Not without a machete and a chainsaw. I mean, I'm sure it's like that, but we have a really intense weather pattern in our country. Basically the whole country. You know, oh, you're from Florida too, Roxy. Nice. Yeah, I mean, we really do though. Like tornadoes are a local thing. Doesn't happen anywhere else. Hurricanes is basically, I think Taiwan and Japan, every now and again, they get hit by typhoons, but that's like the rarity. And they have the monsoon in India. We don't have anything like the monsoon. Although I know in Florida, there's like, not every year, but it's usually every year, there's like a 2-month period where it rains every single day. About 2 or 3 o'clock, it opens up, the heavens open up, and just a torrential downpour happens for about 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. But like, other than that, yeah, like I said, hurricanes, tornadoes, although I suppose they have earthquakes in other places pretty seriously, pretty gnarly earthquakes. But I mean, and blizzards too. Like Europe, their weather is so much more mild than anything it's so weird how everything is more mild in Europe than anywhere else on the planet, really. And we're like the second most mild. We're basically like a kind of a twin sister or a twin, or maybe even just like a sibling to Europe, North America. It's very, very similar because, then you have stuff like Africa that's just crazy. But I don't know. I was just thinking about that, how different it is to live here in America. But at the same time, it's very similar, and that it used to be even more wild. And actually, the life that we've been taming this continent for a long time. And I think Europe probably they tamed it, that's why it's so mild. And like also I think there was a hotel in Tampa, I think was the first place to have air conditioning in the country, I think. It's called the Plant Hotel, I think, and they have there's a lot of stuff named after this millionaire named Plant. There's a city, Plant City. It's in between Tampa and Orlando. I was watching Ben Shapiro earlier too. You guys see my post? Hang on, I'm gonna pull that shit up. But did you guys see my post on it? It was what I did a stream on last night. This guy literally exactly what I was talking about last night, basically, is what Ben Shapiro did today. It was ridiculous.
Sometimes it feels like it's Elon Musk versus the entire world. We'll get.
Oh, or hang on. Yeah, it was something I posted now that I think about it. So it'll be on my channel. Yeah, I did make a post about it. Oh, here we go.
Want to. He's very comfortable in his main hideout. Folks, I've been saying for a long time, Tucker Carlson is not conservative. He is not conservative. Now, many people didn't believe me. I get it. The Tucker Carlson.
Like, first of all, where does he get off? He's not conservative. And Tucker, at the base of any political ideology in America, you have to love the American people. You have to love the American people, and you have to want what's best for them. You have to want good things for them. This piece of shit, he doesn't want good things for us. He wants good things for Israel. Tucker wants good things for us. At the very least, say what you will about Tucker, at least he cares about what happens to us. He has a stake, and his son, he has his progeny is going to live here. Whereas Ben Shapiro, it just blows my mind. And that's the problem, is Ben Shapiro is not an American, and he doesn't give a damn about Americans. Insofar as he cares about us, but as far as our money pays for Israel, that's how much he cares.
Carlson from Fox News, the guy who says he hates illegal immigration, the one who campaigned with President Trump. Yeah, that guy. Well, yesterday, Tucker Carlson laid bare his true beliefs. The mask is pretty much totally off at this point. He no longer even really pretends to be conservative. Tucker Carlson believes that the American system of economics is rigged by conspiratorial powers, that we're in the middle of a class war, and that you are being distracted by all those unimportant issues, like trans or BLM. Just the way all the Democratic Socialists say. Now, why is this important? Because we are still in a battle for the soul of the conservative movement, and Tucker is still in the ear of many people in the White House. Listen, too many people remember the Tucker from Fox News, or maybe the Tucker from CNN, or maybe the Tucker from MSNBC. They think, hey, that guy seemed like a conservative, and this guy looks physically like that guy. But here is the thing. Tucker Carlson
has seen what we've seen. When you've seen all the crooked, shady deals and stuff that have been going down the last 20 years, it rightfully should have caused you to step back and take reevaluate the situation. And Tucker, rightfully so, has done that. And Mr. Shapiro, since he hates Americans, hates white people, he's always thinking about how can he bilk us? How can he suck us dry? How can he turn us into, empty husks?
He's not conservative. He just isn't. Now, you can listen to Tucker all you want. I get it. He's entertaining and he's bizarrely fascinating. And he does an amazing job of pretending he has access to all the conspiratorial secrets of the universe. Also, he sells nicotine pouches made in India. But here's the thing. Age him up about 10 years.
Bro, this guy is so pathetic. You hear how he slides those little jabs in? He also sells nicotine pouches from India. Okay, what's your point? Are you trying to say that he's taking advantage of Indian workers? It's sly. He won't actually come out and accuse Tucker of anything. He just says slick shit like that. Oh, he get nicotine pouches from India. Okay, what's wrong with that? Are you trying to say nicotine is bad for you? Or are you trying to say that Indian people are being enslaved or working in sweatshops? None of that is true. That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. First of all, in India, they have more agricultural jobs than anything, and that's a problem for them because everybody has a degree there. But he's trying to use Tucker's nicotine pouch company as a bludgeon to hit him over the head with. There's nothing wrong with that. Nicotine is not it's not heroin, and it doesn't kill people. It doesn't cause it doesn't cause disease or anything. It's just a stimulant. It's the same thing as it's like if Tucker had a coffee plantation or he was selling his own brand of coffee. I don't see Ben Shapiro or anybody else using people's coffee brands against them because everybody does have a coffee brand. It's so disingenuous. And Ben Shapiro, he doesn't actually debate anybody anymore. He just does these really effeminate, feline, sly, reputation savaging tactics. He's like a woman. He's like a female now. And I honestly, I apologize, ladies. Like I mean this like as in he's like a pathological woman, like a vindictive, vicious, a Karen, or just an unpleasant bitch. That's what Ben Shapiro feels like to me. And it's like, why won't he just dry up and blow away already?
Give him a Brooklyn accent, and he's basically Bernie Sanders. I have the video to prove it. I'll explain in just one moment. Plus,
bro, that's such a tired attack, bro. Why don't you deal with the content of his point, his argument? Why do you just like this lazy ass goy slop? And I seen this guy trying to say Tucker is goy slop. It's like, no, bitch, you're the goy slop. You're the one that's just spewing out gruel and expecting everybody to lap it up like a good little dog or good little goy.
We'll get to Candace Owens apparently getting scammed for 10 grand, Jews getting stabbed in Zohran Mamdani's New York, and
he's like a tabloid journalist now. It's all gossip. It's so pathetic.
And Elon Musk taking on the European media, all that and more on today's Ben Shapiro Show. Okay, so yesterday, Tucker Carlson did an interview with Stephen A. Smith. Pretty interesting from a wide variety of perspectives. Tucker talked about how he had been...
Wow. That wasn't yesterday. It was the day before yesterday, I think.
Basically given up on Trump over Iran, which we knew since he called him the Antichrist, and how the country is being run by a secret cabal, all the usual Tucker stuff. But there is something he said that is making some waves, because the mask is off and it shows who Tucker truly is, a left-wing conspiracy theorist, basically Bernie Sanders. All right, enough of the buildup. Here's the clip.
The true crisis in the country, which has nothing to do with race and has to do with economics, and the people benefiting from the private equity scams and the crypto scams and all the other scams underway in the American economy. We don't really produce anything. We just lend money at high interest, sell real estate again and again. Those people are
and that sounds about right to me.
Getting richer than everyone else, the billionaire class, and they don't want to deal with questions about how exactly this works. Why are they paying half the taxes that you're paying as a wage earner? Like, I don't really get that. And they don't want to have to defend it. So instead they're like, the real problem is race.
Right.
And so in a normal country, you just like have a revolution. People are like, I'm not putting up with this. But in our country, because every conversation is controlled by the media filter, we don't even know what's happening. And so people are like, well, my life sucks. It must be the whites, and some whites are like, it must be the blacks or whatever. It's like,
isn't it funny how you get a guy like Nick Fuentes or somebody else who's saying, it's the blacks, they're the problem. It's the blacks, it's the Jays. And then you get people like Ben Shapiro that go, see, he's just using a scapegoat, this, that, and the third. And then Tucker Carlson comes out and actually he's kind of saying the same thing. It's not about black people. And I kind of agree with him to a certain degree. They aren't the problem. They're kind of a very small problem for us. It really is these people up top. But Ben Shapiro says the same slander. He smears Tucker as if he's making an argument like that. And it's like, he's not, though. He's talking about these corrupt, like, why is it that those people pay half as much because they invest there? Why is it that they pay half as much when they make money by investing, as opposed to when, like, making money the good old fashioned way, putting in a hard or an honest day's work for an honest day's pay? Like, that's valid. And Ben Shapiro wants to act, that's what Bernie said. No, that has nothing to do with it. Who cares? If that is what Bernie Sanders think, then good on Bernie Sanders. Because why when investors earn $1, why do they get taxed half as much as I do when I earn $1? What the fuck is that about? That's a problem. And they hated the fair tax. Remember fairtax.org? I remember my dad saying that'll never happen. You know why? Because that would be us switching from a tax code that taxes you on how much on your income, how much it taxes you when you make money. And I mean, that's what it does. Taxes you when you earn money. And people will always have to earn. They'll always earn money. They'll always need money. They'll always have to earn money. Versus fair tax, which taxes people when they spend money. People can stop. They don't have to spend money. They can, say, oh, I don't need to buy that. You know, they have control over how much taxes they pay. Whereas with the income tax, no, it's not based on what you spend. It's on what you earn. And it's so corrupt that is the case, because it's like they're getting you when you're the most vulnerable, when you're earning the money. When you're trying to earn a living to feed your kids or keep a roof over your head, that's when they pop up and stick a fucking hand out. Disgusting thieves. Where's your money? You know, as soon as you're collecting that check, there they are with their hand out. There they are. That's the worst. I can't stand that kind of stuff, you know?
This is racial foment. This is racial conflict, which is created by the people who are taking all the money.
Okay, Tucker is just a Marxist. It's not a slur. It's a genuine description of his worldview.
What? Marxist? What an idiot. What about that was Marxist? Why is it that investors pay half as much when they earn $1 versus when somebody who's a mechanic earns $1? What is that all about? That's not Marxist, asshole. That's the tax code. Let's talk. There's nothing Marxist about that at all. At all. That's not workers unite. That's not people gathering and unionizing. That's just people saying, hey, why is that guy only paying this much for every dollar he earns, and I'm paying a different amount that's more? That's not communist or Marxist, Mr. Shappy Shapiro. He's such a piece of scum. I hate this guy.
He believes in class conflict. He believes that all the outcomes are rigged by the rigged system. He believes that they, wink, wink, are rigging the system by getting you all hot and bothered about trans and Black Lives Matter, racial divisions, that you'll be distracted from the gigantic sucking sound from the rich people who are screwing you. Who does that sound like? I'm having a time. Who does it?
The worst fear that the ruling class in this country has is that Americans, black, white, Latino, urban and rural, gay and straight, young and old, that all of us will come together to demand a government that represents all of the people in our country, not just the wealthy few. The oligarch's nightmare is that we will not allow ourselves to be divided up by race, religion, sexual orientation, or country of origin, and will together have the courage to take them on. Will this struggle be easy? Absolutely not. And one of the reasons for that is that the ruling class of this country will constantly remind you that they have all the power. They control the government. They own the media. You want to take us on? Good luck, they will say. There is nothing you can do about it.
You know, it strikes me, why would anybody have a problem with that? You know, it's like when you if you commit a crime and he's like, I'm innocent. And they say, well, if you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. And it's like, dude, all Bernie Sanders is really saying there is that our government is accountable to us and that we get a fair shake. Why would that, if they're all above board and dealing with us honestly, why would they fear that? Why would they fear that? Really, Americans don't want to steal anybody's wealth. They just want a fair shake. Why are they so against that? That's kind of how I read that, is really like that could be achieved. What Bernie Sanders is talking about there, that could be achieved. We wouldn't have to go to communism. They would just have to be honest with us and deal with us honestly. That would go a long way. Why are they so averse? Like, they have nothing to worry about if they're all, following the law and following the rules and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But, we all know that they're not all doing right. They're not, most of them are doing corrupt, evil shit. And, you know, they want things to stay the same. They'll spend they'll spend their fortunes, whatever money, however much money they have squirreled away, however much money they've stolen or earned or whatever. They'll spend every penny of it. They'll go broke trying to keep the status quo. Absolutely, I'm sure. Maybe some of them won't. Maybe ones like Elon Musk has nothing to fear. He knows that he would just earn the money back. You know, if we took everything from Elon Musk, he would immediately be ultra rich immediately the next day. Who would not reinvest in Elon Musk? So the genuine innovators, the genuine people who are the genuinely intelligent geniuses and businessmen that we have out there that don't need favors, that don't need special settings and situations to be wealthy or to earn, to be profitable. It's only the crooks. It's only the crooks, you know, and I don't want to see something like that happen, some huge communist revolution or something, but something's got to change because, you know, it's been a long time since we've rejiggered things. You know, things are we are very much so in need of a reform. We're in need of some tweaking, and they're trying like hell to keep that from happening.
Hey, Tucker and Bernie are indistinguishable. If you just switch the inflections, they sound the same. Now, Tucker does this routine all the time, or when he's called on this stuff, he says, "Me? A socialist? No!" Right, but I'm just wondering, do people who generally like the free market argue in favor of feudalism?
Again, this is the classic principle of actually how you get a king, right? Because they're generational.
This is so disingenuous. These guys aren't advocating for feudalism. They're saying, you know, feudalism is basically a barbaric or a quasi-barbaric way of life. And even that is better than what we have. Even at least with feudalism, the Lord actually has incentive to care about the people, the serfs that work under him, because without his serfs, he dies. So he actually has incentive to look out for their best interest. Whereas these oligarchs, these billionaires, man, we are just consumers to them. They have zero incentive to do anything positive for us.
Invested in the well-being of the land they're ruling, the people they're ruling, and they have the power to control the outcomes there. So if you actually care about that, if you're actually going to benefit, why not invest your control in actually producing a better population?
I completely agree. I mean, feudalism is so much better than what we have now because at least in feudalism, the leader is vested in the prosperity of the people he rules.
Right.
You know, if all your serfs die, you starve.
Yeah, like he doesn't replace his people. Like these bastards are doing to us. They're replacing us.
Yeah, there's a true incentive to care for those people.
Now, I'm not saying that I dislike capital. I love, as an American, I love capitalism. I mean, I hate capitalism, but I love it because I don't want to be called a socialist. But I really, really hate it. I mean, really deep down. Okay, here he was in 2019. I mean, again, this goes back a ways. People are just picking up on the Tucker of it now. Some of us were picking up on the Tucker of this some years ago, back in 2019, when he was still on Fox News. He was doing the capitalism robs us of our souls routine.
But first, Republican leaders will have to acknowledge that market capitalism is not a religion. Market capitalism is a tool, like a staple gun or a toaster. You'd have to be a fool to worship it. Our system was created by human beings for the benefit of human beings. We do not exist to serve markets, just the opposite. Any economic system that weakens and destroys families is not worth having. A system like that is the enemy of a healthy society.
And that makes total sense. Tucker's just saying, let's not forget the point of all this. The point is to have happy people. And if we don't have happy people, then capitalism is a failure. It doesn't matter how good our economy is. If everybody's miserable, then it hasn't worked. And it's like Ben Shapiro, anybody that questions anything, anybody who questions the past way of life for America, the neocon Republicans going back to Reagan and Vietnam and letting Israel or being blackmailed, whatever, with Israel. It's like he wants us to be in 1992 forever or 2001 forever. It's like, man, screw you. Leave. Get the hell out of our country, dude. And he's like so autistic with it. It's like any sort of argument that is about people and happiness and something cultural or, something about people that's not just about hard numbers. Ben Shapiro makes fun of it and he does all kinds of impressions and shit and laughs about it. It's like, well, maybe we're not all a bunch of autistic fucking savants like you, a bunch of idiot savants, or we're not an idiot savant like this fucking jackass. Like this guy, his dick gets hard over numbers and, and dreidels and Hanukkah and other J holidays. But like anytime anybody talks about anything just sort of communal and about people gathering and community and being there for each other, he makes a joke out of it. And it's like, bro, fuck you, man. Who do you think you are? Go be with the other idiot savants in Israel. I'm sorry about the ads. I mean, can't help it. I need it. Like, that's all I have, which it ain't much.
By the way, no one has argued that we ought to worship the free markets. The free markets are a description of a private property system in which you have rights. Tucker has been talking about collectivization for quite a while. The only thing really that distinguishes Tucker Carlson from Bernie Sanders at this point is that he doesn't like the trans. And in his own words, all that stuff is just a distraction anyway. And of course, on foreign policy, Tucker is utterly indistinguishable from Zohar Mamdani, let alone Bernie Sanders. Again, Tucker has direct access to the White House right now. It's important that if we're going to debate policy out in the open, then actual facts and logic should be deployed here, because shouting at the sky in deranged Twitter posts that are longer than War and Peace, that probably isn't it. Now, Tucker put out a bizarre tweet yesterday that legitimately is novel.
No, and I agree with you, Apophis. It is the best idea we have so far. But that doesn't mean that it's perfect. That doesn't mean that we don't ever try to make it better. And that's what Ben Shapiro is basically saying is we've got the formula. We should never tweak it, change it, never try anything new, never take any risks. Fuck you, dude. Maybe everything's good for you, great for you. You have your 5 kids, but everybody else feels differently about it. I mean, and pretty soon we're going to have AI. Bro, this is all going to be pretty moot and not that long. I mean, really and truly, how long do you think we're going to have democracy and we're even going to have politicians with AI? Like, honestly, why? I mean, like I said, it's going to remove a lot of choice in life. And if we have all the answers, why the hell would we need to rely on politicians?
Ma'am, this is a Taco Bell. And you tell me if this sounds like a guy who should be guiding the future of the Republican Party or American foreign policy. So here is what he wrote. We're going to have to break this down because it's really, really, really long. I'm just warning you. It's long because something has gone wrong here. So Tucker Carlson writes this, quote, obviously this little freak, he's talking about me. Obviously, this little freak could go volunteer to fight the war himself, but of course he won't. He's got no interest in making any kind of personal sacrifice.
He's a piece of shit.
Now, listen, I'm not going to get down in the mud with Tucker by slinging names at him.
Because he's
or
right.
maligning his physical appearance. Okay, that wouldn't be that tough, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to point out the logical fallacies of this rather effeminate and emotive vomit post.
Bro, effeminate and emotive? You're a straight up gossip scandal rag. You're a scandal rag, bro. That's everything you talk. Every word out of your mouth is gossip. I watched him for over a decade. I've seen his show and know what it's been like. Now this is totally a tabloid scandal gossip show. And if anybody's effeminate, it's this guy. And, he has 5 kids, and he always waves his kids like, I'm more manlier than you. I have 5 kids. It's like, it comes off kind of gay. I've never known a masculine guy to constantly talk about how manly they were and how much more manly they are than every other guy, how much more masculine they are because they have a wife and they have a traditional home and they have kids and this. It's like, bro, shove it up your ass, dude. You're scum, bro. You're fucking scum, man. And you're like, get the fuck out of here, bro. Don't make me laugh, man. You've been leeching off of us as a people and a country as long as you've been here. Like, it's funny. I kind of sense that he's compensating for something. It wouldn't surprise me if he was a queer. Like, wouldn't that be some shit if it come out that Nick Fuentes is straight and Ben Shapiro's the faggot? Hey, it would not surprise me. Would not surprise me. Anybody who constantly is talking and has constantly trying to prove how masculine they are. Yeah, that's just kind of gay. Oh, thank you for the gift. Hell yeah.
So Tucker Carlson is in favor of ICE deporting more people, as am I.
Holy shit.
He could join ICE at any moment. Damn. I mean, he could. Why doesn't he? Well, because he doesn't want to. He's very comfortable in his main hideaway or his Florida mansion, or maybe that prospective house in Qatar that he was bragging about recently. Why won't he join ICE? He could go volunteer to fight that war himself, but of course he won't. He's got no interest in making that kind of personal sacrifice. See the silliness of the argument. Okay, Tucker continues. None of them do. Them. Well, who does he mean by them? We'll see in just a moment. Israel's finance minister bragged the other day that having American soldiers fight Netanyahu's war is the best for us. Smotrich doesn't want to die for Israel. Neither does Ben Shapiro. Dying for Israel is your job, says Tucker Carlson. So, a lot of lies here from Tucker. And again, trying to disentangle all of the lies in this
crazy that he's saying
bewildering
because literally
array of silliness.
What the fuck?
It's going to.
Israel literally said, we're not helping, just like this week. They were like, yeah, we're not going to help. You guys go ahead. You're stuck. Screw you. Like, that's incredible. That's so incredible. And how dare this guy? He is a warmonger. Him and Mark Levin, they have no stake in these wars, and they are the ones that are screaming all the time about how we need to go harder, more, go hard. It's like, bro, this kind of falls flat because he is right. You and your ilk are the first ones and the loudest ones calling for war, calling for all out, calling to kill people, to just lay a country to waste. Strikes me that you're kind of out of your element, or you're way out of line here. Way out of line.
Take a moment. So we have to untangle it. Let's start with this. Bezalel Smotrich said that Israel had no interest in pushing itself into an operation in Iran in which the United States had said it did not want Israel involved. Israel, you will remember, was fighting alongside the United States for the entirety of the war until the United States told Israel to stop, which is when Israel stopped. As far as his contention that Smotrich doesn't want to die for Israel, Smotrich served in the IDF. His oldest son is in the IDF. His oldest son was wounded by shrapnel in the IDF in Lebanon. What's more, nobody is asking you to die for Israel. No one is asking anyone to die for Israel.
Bullshit.
Trump isn't. He doesn't want.
Bullshit. You absolutely are asking us to die for Israel, you fucking bastard.
Americans to die for America, let alone for Israel. First of all, saying that you want the military to take on America's enemies is not asking Americans to die any more than saying that you want the police to crack down on, say, inner city crime is saying you want Americans to die for your own safety. Public policy is public policy. Second, Trump isn't fighting this war for Israel. He has said this 1,000 times. Tucker is a conspiracy theorist who believes that Trump has been taken in by the nefarious Jewish powers that be. But Trump, you may have noticed, is a rather independent human. He's done a bunch of stuff during this war that I don't like. But wait for it. Tucker is going to claim that Trump is actually a cat's paw for, of all the humans, me personally. You see, according to Tucker, Trump works for me personally. Like Ben Shapiro, he works for me. I know. Well, folks, you might be getting the impression that I'm mildly annoyed by Tucker Carlson's foolishness. And it is annoying. But it's not quite as annoying as the fact that the average human needs something like 10 servings of fruits and veggies a day to actually cover their nutritional bases. 10. See, I have 5 kids and a business and a podcast. I do not have time to wonder how people like this, again, he's talking about me, liars without honor, wisdom, or loyalty to the United States, wound up in positions of such profound influence throughout our society. It's a suspicious thing. Okay, that's a lot of words. And I do wonder at this point whether Tucker genuinely owns a mirror.
Damn.
You should look in one.
Thank you.
If you're talking about people who lie for a living, Tucker lies like he breathes. You may remember that time that Tucker literally lied directly to the New York Times. They confronted him about calling President Trump the Antichrist, and Tucker just lied because, again, the man lies for a living.
But I ask because, you've been talking on your show about whether Trump is the Antichrist.
I have not said that.
On your show, the day after Easter, you noted he did not put his hand on the Bible during his swearing-in ceremony as president. You said, and I'm quoting, maybe he didn't put his hand on the Bible because he affirmatively rejects what's inside that book. And then on a recent show, you went further saying, here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods, and exalting himself above them. Could this be the Antichrist?
I actually did not say, could this be the Antichrist?
Here's a leader who's mocking the gods of his ancestors, mocking the God of gods, and exalting himself above them.
Yeah, I kind of had a problem.
Could this be the Antichrist?
I kind of had a problem with what Trump said too. It was not right. It was a disgrace, a total disgrace. It puts a stain on our flag that scumbag said that. Oh, well, talking about genocide, just wiping people off the face of the earth, innocent women and children. Like, Tucker had a point.
Well, who knows?
I don't know where that comes from, but I know that those words never left my lips because I'm not sure I fully understand what the Antichrist is. If there's just one, I actually tried to understand it. I may have said some are asking that. I'm not weighing in on that because I don't understand it.
I don't understand it. I talk. Could he be the Antichrist? I don't know. Maybe, these are all questions that just have.
And Ben Shapiro, he's honestly, it's kind of his strategy is kind of sad. It used to be to debate, but now it's just to either try to shame people, and then if they won't respond to shame, then he uses he tries to. I'm trying to think of how they word this, but it's like, you're an idiot if you believe this stuff. That's what that's his strategy, is to laugh at everybody who disagrees with him, is for him to say that everybody who disagrees with him is stupid, or for him to say that Tucker's a spiritual guy. Okay, what's the problem? That's essentially what Ben Shapiro is doing, is making fun of Tucker's spirituality. Well, if that's what we're doing, then does that means that I can make fun of your spirituality, then, doesn't it, Mr. Meshuggah? You fucking, this dude's a schmuck.
Does Tucker have a lot of honor, right? He says that I have no honor. Does he have a lot of honor? I don't know. I don't consider it the most honorable thing to laugh at conspiracy theories maligning the wife of my supposed friend, Charlie Kirk.
Your supposed friend? Like, dude, you were one of his most staunchest enemies while he was alive. What a joke. Ben Shapiro hated Charlie Kirk as much as he hates Nick Fuentes. And this piece of shit calls him his friend. Fuck you.
takes the gun apart, leaves the screwdriver there, puts it under a towel. Spider-Man's his way off the top of a building, runs across campus with the gun apparently under a towel. Nobody sees this. He runs into the woods, puts the gun back together again without the screwdriver. He's a regular MacGyver, this guy. And then he hides the gun in the backyard of a house owned by Palantir. And if you think anything else besides that, you're a crazy Jew-hating conspiracy nut.
Yeah. Is Tucker Carlson?
Have you guys noticed that's his whole argument is, he never even says what's stupid about it. He just plays it and then laughs at it. It's like, bro, is that the best you have for real? Like, he plays it and laughs, plays it and imitates it. Like, bro, you have a fucking you have a platform of millions of people, and this is what you put on it? This slop, this crap, it's Bush League, man.
Wise? I don't know. That's not the first word that might come to mind for me. I'm not sure it's all that wise to, say, attribute scratches on your back while you are in bed with multiple dogs.
What a loser.
To mysterious demons.
Loser.
I had a direct experience with it.
In the milieu of journalism, or just
nope, in my bed at night, and I got attacked while I was asleep.
Yeah,
with
Tucker's
my wife
spiritual.
And 4 dogs in the bed and mauled.
Okay. Why are you making fun of that, Mr.
mauled.
Shapiro? You little bitch.
In a spiritual
You
attack by a demon?
Yeah.
He's a little effeminate, hairy little pussy is what he is. Little troll demon.
By a demon.
Little bridge troll.
Or by something unseen that left.
Is that right?
Claw marks on my sides, on my...
So he left physical marks?
Oh, they're still there. Yeah.
That's called
a year and
a
a half
wipe.
ago.
So much wisdom. As for loyalty, aside from, giving credibility to the worst enemies of Charlie Kirk like Nick Fuentes, I'm not sure it's the most loyal thing to America to travel to Russia to wax poetic about the tyrannical regime, or to host guests who talk about why we...
See, anytime Tucker says anything Ben Shapiro doesn't like, Ben Shapiro does a whole show where he brings out his little Holocaust reel of all of the things that he thinks make Tucker look bad. And then he plays them and then has a goofy look on his face when he comes back from the clip. It's trite and worn out, stale, man. You're a hack.
To cede power to China, or to label Hamas a political group, or to talk about the magic of Iranian leadership on behalf of the entire Middle East. I don't know. None of that seems super America first loyal to me. I don't know. I mean...
Putin, who's been there for 25 years, his country's improved. The people are happier. They like him, actually. Putin has been the most effective leader in my lifetime.
No one asked me whether Putin's our enemy. Why?
And all that, those things all might actually be true. Maybe he is the best leader of Russia in Tucker's lifetime. That's a distinct possibility. Maybe the Russian people are happier than they were. Like, is that so crazy? And who the hell is Ben Shapiro to say one way or the other?
Putin my enemy. He's never done anything to me. He's never called me a racist.
And on Iran.
And the rest of the world is watching this in horror, and no one's doing anything about it. The United States is abetting it. The United States is helping it happen, despite what they tell you. Those are American weapons and weapon systems being used to murder Christians in Lebanon. Who is doing something about it? Iran. Hate to say that. Wish that weren't true. Wish it didn't fall to Iran to do something about this, but it has, and they are.
Kind of crazy that he thinks that this makes Tucker look bad. That Tucker is calling his beloved Israel and every other country of the West to the carpet, saying, how is it that you guys are all okay with this, paying for it, but somehow Iran, they're supposed to be this evil terrorist, suicidal country, but they're coming to the Christians' defense. It's not having the effect that Ben Shapiro wants it to have.
And they're doing more about this than any other country, including ours, including any of the Gulf states. Sorry.
Yes, according to Tucker Carlson, Iran is defending Christians in Lebanon. Also on Hamas, an actual terrorist group. But he doesn't think it is.
Sounds more likely, more plausible than Israel protecting Christians. That's for sure.
You can't claim that they're in Hamas while simultaneously claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly, which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization, but whatever it is, they're telling us constantly they're Al-Qaeda.
He just said that he doesn't know what it is. And that they're constantly saying that it's this, but it doesn't really look like it. And Ben Shapiro thinks that it's like he's landing a body blow there or something. It's kind of pathetic.
Okay. Or here's Tucker, America First Tucker, talking about the magic of Sharia law making for clean cities.
There's not a single.
No matter what, if you go to Dubai or where, I forget where the Burj Khalifa's at, or Dubai, and then Abu Dhabi. Yeah, they're clean. They're very clean, and it is a fact that they live under Sharia law. So, Tucker's calling a spade here. He's saying, look, these cities, they're the playground of billionaires, and they're clean, and they are in fact under Sharia law. And that's never been the critique of these places. The critique is how they treat their women. It's not whether or not the ground is dirty, Mr. Shapiro, you fucking loser. He just thinks that everybody's as blind as him, or as blind. They think that we don't have eyes and we haven't seen things. Obviously, the Middle East is not the shithole it used to be. I mean, with the wilderness, but the cities are, from what I understand, my brother went to Dubai, said it was crazy. It was really nice and really luxurious. So it's not a shithole in there anymore. And it's like, and Tucker's pointing that out. He's just stating a fact. It's ridiculous.
Western city that's thriving. And they're all degrading in exactly the same way.
Right, Tucker is talking about real problems that we have. And Ben Shapiro, Tucker is using Dubai and stuff as an example, saying comparing us to Dubai. And Dubai, this is the Middle East. They were used to be a shithole just a few years ago. And they're as nice or better than our cities. And Ben Shapiro thinks that they're perfect, I guess, and that Tucker's crazy for calling out the fact that our cities are shitholes. Not really, but some of them are. Some of the areas are.
Go to a country like Japan or the Emirates or Qatar or Saudi Arabia, and you see that when people are self-confident, when they're really pleased with what they're doing and they believe that their system is the right system, that self-confidence results in a kind of welcoming attitude. Mm-hmm. So you'll be sitting at dinner in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and you'll say, I'm really kind of pro-Jesus, like I'm a Christian. They'll be like, oh, that's so great.
And they don't have the same.
Well, they mean it.
And they don't have the same belief.
No, they're Muslims.
They're Muslims.
It's a country governed by Sharia law.
Right.
And they're like, that's great.
It's true. In Islamist countries all over the world, they love Christianity. It's what Sharia law is all about. Oh!
Yeah, well, they certainly like Christianity more than Israelis who spit on Christians and shove nuns down in broad daylight, attack nuns in the middle of this, just walking. Because that's what happens in Jerusalem and Israel. And in Saudi Arabia or in Dubai and stuff, nobody touches Christians. It's so absurd, and how backwards it is. Israel is the dump. Israel is the place that treats people like shit. Like how they treated the people, not the flotilla people, but it was another group of people where they were treating them like fucking animals. And then making them like that Seacot in Central America. Yeah, they were making these people kneel down, get down on their knees. They were treating them like dogs. They hadn't committed a crime or anything. It was disgusting, man.
We'll get to more on this in a moment. First, running a business is hard enough.
I mean, you could hear people screaming in the background. It was pretty chilling.
Having to become an insurance expert on the side. But that's exactly what happens to a lot of business owners. You sign a policy, suddenly president's cell phone number. Why is Admiral Brad Cooper?
Man, think about how much Tucker has gotten under his skin for Ben Shapiro to do these whole episodes where he makes a special project out of Tucker. Like, seriously, think about how much Tucker must piss him off and must kill him. Because he will take no end of time out to smear him. It's just like after October 7th, how Ben Shapiro, he did like 2 weeks straight of pure Holocaust porn.
The man in charge of the Iran war, secretly taking strategic advice from crazed Israel shill Mark Dubowitz. It's also nuts and ultimately suicidal. Future generations will struggle to understand it. In the meantime, Trump will likely obey Ben Shapiro, as he has consistently for months. So first of all, I gotta say, awesome. Apparently, I have the incredible godlike power to control President Trump. So here's what President Trump should do.
It's so funny how they always pretend like this is absurd. How the Jays, they always pretend like it's not happening. And it's like, bro, you can put on your little goofy clown show, your little jester act. Go for it, bro. Nobody believes you. You're a fucking shill. You're full of shit. You hate this country. You hate us as a people. Fuck you.
I'm going to snap my fingers. And he's going to do it. End the Department of Education, restructure Social Security and Medicare, burn through the regulatory state, negotiate bilateral free trade agreements to box in China, use the DOJ to target foreign influence.
He wouldn't say any of that shit. He would say, drop a bomb on Iran right now. Wipe those people off the planet. Does anybody think that that's all he wants? Drop that nuclear bomb. Bust that football out. Put in the codes. Wipe those people off the face of the earth. Give the Middle East to Israel.
Operations including China, Russia, Iran, Qatar, and Turkey. Man, there's so much that I would do. And because I just snapped my fingers, it happened. In fact, on Iran, Mr. President, let's order some sorties over Pickaxe Mountain, bomb South Pars and Kharg into oblivion, unleash some special operations along with UAE and Israel to wipe out IRGC forces along the north shore of the Strait of Hormuz, and use our Navy to force open the strait without the permission of the Saudis. And then, just for good measure, let's kill Khalibah Fahidi and the new gay Ayatollah and his peg leg.
Isn't that funny? He wanted none of those things he listed first. He just wants to kill people. If he had the presidency, he would just be killing people. That would be his shtick. Isn't it disgusting? Like, this is just a filthy human being. Unfit to live with. Unfit to live amongst. I mean, truly.
Let's do all those things. And I just said it. It happened. Let's also unleash the Israelis on Hezbollah in Lebanon, unleash the Saudis on the Houthis, and also, by the way, unleash the Ukrainians on the Russians. And then we can all come home and pop a brewski. Here's the thing. We all know that President Trump is rather independent. Sometimes he agrees with the things that I say, and sometimes that he doesn't. But Tucker saying that Trump obeys me is absurd on its face.
Not really. It's obvious that he's beholden to Israel to some degree. It's obvious. And they love to play on this like shred of doubt that really doesn't even exist in anybody's mind.
But don't worry, there's more. I know, this tweet was a Russian novel. Quote, we can predict the results because every neocon victory is identical. Huge numbers of innocent people killed, disproportionately Christians. Economic destruction, famine, mass migration, and deepening authoritarianism at home. That's what they're demanding because...
It's crazy. Tucker is pointing out problems that he sees. And, like, that's his job. Ben Shapiro, his job, he's like a fireman. His job is to put out fires for Israel First and the establishment. That's what he does for a living. And Tucker actually is calling stuff out. And all Ben Shapiro can think to do is act condescending and try to make everything seem stupid or everything seem ridiculous. But he looks like the clown here. He looks like the clown, the bozo, the clown with the tiny hat on.
That's what they want. They. Who's he talking about? the mysteries of the universe. Okay, so let's start again. I'm not a neocon. Neocon refers to two groups of people who have been conflated. First, the people who were Democrats in the 60s and were mugged by reality and then became Republicans, right? Neocon, new conservative. That's what that meant.
It's so funny. Like, if you have to do this much explaining, it's horseshit. This is bullshit. This guy's such a shill. Anywho, fellas, I'm gonna call it for this evening. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I feel like these shows are yesterday and today shows a lot better. I'm gonna enjoy my weekend, but I'll be back on Monday for sure, fellas. It was a pretty good interview. I enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys watching, and looking forward to getting better. I got some stuff I'm working on this weekend, so hopefully I'll be able to roll some new stuff. Fix that thumbnail too, for sure. But until Monday evening, fellas, be easy. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Absolutely.